Record reflect that this is the Stark County Council and Commissioners joint meeting of Monday, July 20th. Both boards are present in quorum. We'll just knock out some quick housekeeping items. You've been sent some minutes here for signature. I'll just pass those around. You didn't tell me you had so many drafts.
Yeah, I need it.
So, why do I have a draft? Why don't I have a draft?
Because you approved it the last meeting, but nobody signed it.
Okay, so this just goes with the one that's
Signature.
Okay.
Signature.
How did I do that? So nobody else did? Nobody signed it?
Probably signed it, but didn't track it out.
Oh, so then by me, I was-
Yes.
Okay, and so what I have before me also are Monday, May 18th. It appears that I signed it and nobody else signed it. I'm not sure how that happened, but
Same thing with that.
I'll take the blame for it. And
Yeah,
June,
that one too. Yep.
that one's already approved. But I will entertain a motion for
So
June
moved.
15th. I have a motion from Brad. Is there a second?
Second.
A second from Don. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask all those in favor to please say aye. Is there any opposed? All in favor, Rachel. You stole it? Oh, okay. Yeah, if you want. And then while we're passing that around, we'll get set up to speak with May Engineering. Just give us another, yeah. So the reason why we were looking at a few of these abatements and different things that we had actually decided that we were going to keep some teeth, some of these things that we do. And in the past, we feel like we had lacked follow-up. And the reason why we had questioned this were it didn't seem like we met the targets that we had originally agreed to. So that's why we did not pass the last meeting.
Okay, is it my turn? Paul, I'm Nancy Wellman, and hello, thank you for bringing us to my attention because, for the last 3 of the 4 years, I did not realize that this section was missing because my accountant filled this out, and, he just thought that it needed filled out based on our real estate improvements. And that was all that we needed. So it was just a communication gap between him and I for the form in regards to that. So a misunderstanding of that as far as the missing information. So I would have corrected this sooner had I been notified. I would have been happy to do that. So I'm sorry that information was missing. As far as it being turned in on the last day it was due, I apologize for that. This year's been a little rough, of course, for everyone. So I don't really know what else you want me to say at this point. I think I'm a great community partner here and I do a lot in the county. I just
Yeah, I don't think we were disputing any of that. It's just, that when we kind of resolved that when we were, at least from the county side of things, that we were, setting expectations and we wanted to make sure that those expectations were managed. So just so it's clear then when I'm looking at these numbers then, originally you estimated it's actually 15 because I think that's That was the problem. I didn't bring the one from last time, but wasn't it less than the commitment? And that's,
No, May Engineering, they didn't turn theirs in time, and for 18th and 19th, they turned it in December of 19, so it was either too late for 19 or too early for
because of
20.
timing, okay.
If I could add to that, it was on time this year. She had until the end of the day you guys met. It got turned in, and it was turned in with the proper portions filled out. So she had a completed, acceptable form. I talked to the reporter about that. She said everything looks good, it was on time. So, she actually met those requirements for this year.
What say you, Miss Auditor?
I mean, you're satisfied with the
No,
number.
about the timeliness too. I mean,
Well, it was like, we were emailed like at 5:46 that night, and they do accept postage from that day, so I mean, it was just,
yeah, I mean, we're not
It
trying to.
just
be-
wasn't here
Oh,
before our
sorry.
meeting.
Yeah.
And our meeting was during the day. It was in the morning.
yeah.
That's what it was. It was day meetings then for a while. they closed it, so. Okay. Do we want to do something?
Well, you denied it the first time, so you'll have to.
Right, that's what I mean. We
Yeah.
have to, but we have to, we don't have to reopen anything. We can just take a motion from the.
I was making a motion to okay, CF1 from May Engineering Incorporated.
We have a motion from Brad to approve then the CF1 from May Engineering. Is there a second?
I'll second
I have a second from Kate. Is there any further discussion? Commissioners, did you have any discussion on that? I'll ask all those in favor to please say aye.
Aye.
If there's any opposed, nay. It's unanimous, Rachel. Clerk Manuel. Did you have something else you wanted to say about?
Well, I just wanted to let you guys know that, well, no trade shows going on at all
Yeah,
right now. I still have all of my staff employed. We are using, the sign shop too. I kept that going, recently. But the main function of my building was trade shows.
I tried to get my company to
So,
get engaged with you to redo our booth for our bid meeting for AACC.
so it's been a rough go, but we're hanging in there, and one of the few exhibit houses, I would say in the country, I do know that for a fact, who's kept all of their employees
Great,
on
thank you.
here in this little county, and I'm pretty proud of that. Don't know how long I'm gonna be able to do that with the trade shows, capital come in, but we'll see what happens.
It's a good time for companies to retool though and get their booths fixed up for, when things do loosen up. There's
Yeah.
A lot of business in that booth maintenance.
Thank you, guys.
Well, we're sorry about the timing issue. So. We're good. Come visit us anytime. Trying on being nicer to us this time.
Nicer to you? Never.
Do you have any?
She was mean today. You missed it.
You guys were all emailed and have a copy of the resolutions for the boat center plan, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And for the record, there'll be attachments to the plan and the minutes, but you've seen all that stuff, right?
Right, yes.
Right, so I didn't want to, show a whole bunch of trees.
No, I'm glad you did.
Right.
That's what we're doing.
I'll have it all together in one big package to send to the state tomorrow afternoon. As long as I get your signatures this evening.
So, we've spoken about the boat centers many times. The commissioners obviously are in favor as well. Does the council have any discussion further about the boat centers? I know
It's a
Manuel's done a great
fantastic
job getting it
Thing
set
to
up.
finally get past.
We,
It's been a long road, and thank you for everybody in this room for helping me, because it wasn't just me alone that did it. So
well,
thank you, everyone that put effort and time and
and I will
Plus
say
the
that
tiers.
a lot of the voters that came, at least, and I don't know if you experienced.
The one I went
this,
worked very well.
People were really excited
Yeah.
about it, so.
Worked very well. Sure did.
So, hearing that, Don, would you like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion. Yes, I sure will.
We have a motion to approve resolution 2020 dash what it's gonna be. And, I have a second from Brad. Is there any further discussion? I'll ask all those in favor to please say aye.
Aye.
And is there any opposed? It's unanimous, Rachel.
Anybody have any questions about the vote centers?
When will we have the tablets where you can start getting
I got
familiar
an
with
email
them?
this afternoon, but I was busy making
Adjustments to our budget that we.
no, but I got an email from Noe just this evening, and I haven't been able to open it yet, so I don't know when they're going. I know my bill has been turned in for the half, and I'm assuming that it will get paid after tonight. Yeah, either tonight or next meeting. So, any other questions? I'm gonna take up all your time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Brad has us on a clock, so thank you.
Right, we have a time, we have to be out of here.
Then we had the additional appropriation for seated. Sheriff seated.
Jail.
Hello again. So this was advertised according to. You want to give us the? Yeah.
I believe the commissioner, and I can't speak for, I believe they approved it through CEDA.
Jail.
Is the council all aware what's going on? Does anybody have any questions for the sheriff or for Vance? Would somebody like to make a motion or other?
Make a motion, we do the additional appropriation, in the amount of $76,000. Jail seated, 1114.
I have a motion from Brad to approve for the appropriation for 1114. Is there a second? Second, okay. Did you have some discussion, Bill?
He wants to get out of here too.
Team, if there's any further discussion on that, I'll ask all those in favor to please say aye. Is there any opposed?
Thank you.
And then there was the additional appropriation for Q and Cap. You did kind of challenge it too. Yeah. We'll send it back that way. I have to get it back to you. Discussion. Motions.
Make a motion, we approve an additional appropriation, cum cap, 1138, in the amount of 130,000.
I have a motion from Brad. Is there a second? To approve Q Cap 1138 additional appropriation of 130,000. Is there a second?
Okay, I'll second
Second from Kate. Is there any discussion? Commissioners, do you have any discussion on the? I'll ask all,
What is the?
I'll just ask all those in favor to please say aye. Is there any opposed? All in favor. And again, I'm gonna pass it before I sign it, that way you can't blame me.
No, this one's just.
Okay.
Then the next thing that we had was the additional funding for third floor remodeling.
Dave, I guess basically, we the commissioners, we carefully investigated the current state and of the needed repairs and renovations of the proposed project. And we are in unanimous agreement that the proposed improvements are very necessary. The project needs were prioritized and bid in increments. The things not covered by the budget given by the council included the seating replacements, technology upgrades, countertops and back panels. The lighting improvements and door hardware replacements were removed from the list and will not be considered at this time. The contractors and DLZ reviewed the bid items for the value of engineering the list that would not affect the quality of the work. Contractors and DLZ reviewed what was not covered and that come to around 127,000 without compromising the quality of that work, which we're basically requesting an additional 100,000.
We have the value, you know, like the return on it, but do we have anything that lists what the 100,000 is gonna be spent on?
No, you don't have anything on that. What they give you was their, on the items that stopped at the 300 or 299,000. And that's where they came up with, they must have come up with a little more after we met with them. So it's looking like they're talking about $20,000.
We did cut about $20,000.
That's what I mean, we had, this is what you're cutting, that's what I said, it's got,
We did do that,
Yes.
didn't we? And just like the judge said, I agree with him, you know, we got a courthouse over here that hasn't been, as far as interior, stuff like that, it's like 50, 60 years. We're not gonna spend $400,000 or $500,000 on that, but we'll spend $20 million here on our schools and stuff, you know. Oh, I know, you know, we gotta keep our courthouse. We definitely do.
unfortunately though, it takes legislation though on the school side, so in comparison. But the only thing I'm saying is I think just for the record though, I think it might be nice if there was a list of what.
Well,
There
I
is a
have,
list.
we do have a list.
We don't have the list, is what we're
We don't
saying.
have-
What we
got-
did is we bid it. I'll give you I can pass around the bid sheet. Okay, and I would appreciate it if you would have asked for it ahead of time, because we could have brought all that stuff.
Well, I don't know, you brought this, I'm not trying to make a spectacle of it, but you've got a list here of what's, right?
That is what
Of
we,
what they saved.
Right, I'm just curious, I mean, the public probably wants to know that this is the public.
that is what, okay, what they did is they prioritized the things that needed to be done. And they put them off in various items. So the first one was general conditions. Then they added AHU/ceiling repairs, and they took bids on just that section. Then they took flooring replacement bids and just on that section. Then laboratory renovations just on that section. Then jury room repairs just on that section. Small courtroom improvements on that section. CCR, which I'm not exactly sure what that is, the door and the curtain, they took bids on that. And when they got to that point, that reached $100,000 by the lowest bidder, which was Zylokowski. But what was not covered then, because they continued to bid, we just stopped there and that's what we signed the contract for. The next one was seating replacements. they bid on technology upgrades, they bid on countertop and back panel, they bid on, and we had lighting improvements in the door hardware, which we took off. But, and said, we can do those another time, they're not necessary. But we feel that the seating replacements, the technology upgrades, and the countertop and back panel are necessary for this. And we did meet with the contractors, we did meet with the architect, we did meet with the judge, and spent a lot of time going over this to decide what was necessary and what wasn't. So I'm happy to pass around the bid sheet.
Well, my questioning isn't to negate any of that, or I just, I thought in the meeting, it would be a good idea to discuss what the taxpayers are gonna get for the $100,000, that's all. I'm not saying I'm against. But, you know, I think it's just fair to say, okay, we're gonna do seats, we're gonna do this and this, just for.
Well, that's what I just got done saying. That's what's on here. If you want to take a look at this or take a look at this, that's what I brought. If I would known that there was going to be more questions from you, I would have made sure that I brought the whole stack of things that I have for you to look at.
Actually, I didn't know this was gonna come. I just figured since this was here, that it would be again, you know, against.
That's the value engineering replacements on the items we did accept. So right now, the project is scheduled to end at that 300,000, but what we're asking for are the $100,000 for those 3 categories that need to be done, but don't have enough funds to do.
And that's seating, the light, backsplash, and the
Seating.
technology, right?
Seating up replacements, technology upgrades, because the court does need those things in order to function, and
And the
countertop and
backsplash.
back panel.
And so like, just in terms of understanding the scope of the expenses for the courtroom or the courthouse, will this sustain things for some period of time? And like, are they saying like, will this be like a regular thing where it's 100,000 a year, you know, just in
No,
there?
hopefully
No.
it's-
What the judge said. It hasn't been done for, what, 40, 50 years? It's close to 60 years. You know, we're going a long time on this. So what he wants to do is when we get this done, that this is done where you don't have to mess with it again, you know, for another 50, 60 years.
And I'm not saying personally that I'm not in support of that. Jim Schilling, you know, bless
Oh,
his
yeah.
heart, he
It's showing
worked
that.
so hard to make, you know, bring everybody to it, see the history and everything else. It's just at the end of the day, though, I mean, we've got a lot of other things going on, and that's why I asked that, you know, particular question. And I will say that when we originally sat down with these guys, they thought they were gonna make it all work, and then there was some tongue in cheek of, oh, you know, don't worry, we're gonna come back for the rest, and of course, they came back for the rest, and
No, I said that.
as a council
I
person.
said that, Dave. They didn't.
We
say
did
that.
ask for
I
that
said
to
it.
start with too, and you turned it down for over $100,000.
Yes,
We're
we
back.
asked for 400 to
We're back.
begin with.
But the young man, I think from DLZ, correct me if I'm wrong, he might not have been from DLZ. He told every one of us that those projects were overbid and that
They weren't bid, they
and
were,
that us estimated,
over-
I'll use the word estimated,
he
that they were
estimated them.
overestimated, and he estimated them on the liberal side, that he thought that if most of those bids would come in under that. Obviously, they didn't. I support it. I don't want to be in a situation 10 years from now, us contemplating tearing down our courthouse. Don't take me wrong, but facts are facts. He did tell us that everything that was supposed to have been done for 400,000 was liberally bid. That was, he thought, not bid, estimated,
Estimated.
overestimated.
Estimated.
And that in return is why we cut it down to $300,000. I mean, that had a big say in why we did cut $100,000 out of it. Obviously, it didn't work that way, but that's why. I mean,
Well, I agree with Brian. We need to, and Kathy and Charlie, we need to take care of our, we don't have a lot of
We got
assets.
to, and that's the only courthouse we got.
That's it.
But I mean, even in the grand scope of things, we don't own a lot of things that are, you know, aside from, you know, unfortunately your jail and things, but we don't have a lot of assets. So, like I said, I'm not trying to sound negative about it. I just,
We did cut close to $20,000 out of that.
well, but you also said that you could buy them later. So that means there's still
Well, there's
Plan on
certain things you can't.
spending
certain things you
20,000
can't.
later also. I mean, you know, again, I don't want to sound like, always sound like Mr. Conservative, but Just pointing that out, so.
And the other thing is, right now is the perfect time, like the judge says, it's not that, right now, with this COVID, as much as we hate to say it, right now is the time to get it done, because you're not gonna really be interrupting court very much, because it's all.
We have another courtroom.
At the jail.
We do, but you're not gonna be interrupted hardly at all.
It wouldn't interrupt them if they were out there every day.
Get anybody to use it.
You're just not gonna, you got two courtrooms up there, actually, you got magistrate and the other one, but you're not gonna.
We have one at the jail too,
Either one, I know we got one at the jail.
that never gets used.
Yeah,
No,
and
that's
it's
not
full
true.
of
It
stuff.
does get used, because I've been down there in hearings
And
before.
it's
Rarely.
full of stuff.
Well, it does
Right
get
now.
used.
I don't have any room for the seats. I do like them. I don't have any room for them.
You got-
Well, you can buy them at the auction day. We'll put them on
One or two.
auction.
One or
You
two.
can buy a row of them, you can buy whatever you want to buy, however they want to bid them out. Anybody has to spend any time up in that courtroom and has to sit in those seats, knows exactly what we're talking about.
And some of us prefer not to, but we do training there and things like that within county government too, so. Like I said, I feel like I'm in movies when I do it, so. Is there any further discussion from the council? Someone like to put together a motion about the request about the additional funding for the third floor?
How much is the additional funding?
100,000,
Just 100,000 even?
yes, that's what we're asking for.
No, is
Make
that,
a motion, we approve the additional funding in the amount of $100,000.
We have a motion from Brad. Is there a second? Second from Bob. Is there any additional discussion? You want to amend the motion?
From
where
seated.
it's gonna come from seated. Okay. Is that okay, Bob, on the change in the motion? For you, for your second? Just where it's coming from, it's gonna come from seated. Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? We'll go ahead and last roll vote on that. All those in favor, please say aye.
I,
And is there any opposed? All in favor,
Yes, I do.
Now, the recorder is out of town, but this is actually something that's benefiting us. I know for any kind of activities, normally, I attended the state meeting with her, and she was, again, just, look, I've got some things that were planned way in advance. So, but on that ordinance request,
Just by way
and
of
actually, she's
explanation,
helping us. She's
You don't-
reducing her budget by that amount.
It's,
Yes.
it's authorized by statute, but the thing I wanted to point out is this is a 1 year, you know, if you want to do that again next year, you have to go through the same process. So this ordinance has a, 1 year duration.
So it does expire. so.
It expires, it's
Okay.
only one annual thing. Just because every time it has to be supported by the affidavit from the recorder saying that sufficient funds exist in the perpetual fund for its actual purpose,
Okay.
which is perpetuate.
Excellent.
Okay.
And I will say though, that this is an effort, Mandy is takes it very personally when we request something, if she took the request to reduce her budget. Very personally, Rachel can agree with that. She doesn't have many items, guys. And so like this was something that she went and did, on behalf of our request. So, I'd like to ask for a motion on that. Have a motion from Brad. Is there a second? And I have a second from Kay. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Is there any opposed? We make sure, oh. I didn't see Jean anywhere. Is she here?
She was on the hallway.
While Jean's coming in, that is a commissioner item to the auditor for the CARES Act. Rachel got one earlier, so
Yes, yes, yes.
I sent you a text about that, Marty, about the CARES Act. That has to go through. But one of the things that were really, the the deputy from the governor's office was there at the meeting. And one of the things that they really have spent a lot of time, apparently, is the attorneys in counties have had a lot of extra time because of COVID. And that's been one of the real common reimbursements that counties have gotten, so.
Surprisingly, Epic has generated a lot of legal work.
But it was pointed out to me that we were one of 31 counties that had not signed the agreement, so, Gene let Rachel know that we need to execute, which was what they said to the commissioners. So,
And I also sent her the application and instructions.
awesome, thank you. And we'll let you get started when they're available, but we were doing budget hearings today, and it just came up that there hadn't been a review in a while to see, like the one thing when we chartered the EMA director position was that the grants and the different things that it brings in would exceed, the cost of the county for that. So I think it was just kind of a general update.
When it first came up, we weren't sure, we didn't really have expenses. I think actually the way it's going, we're gonna have more. But when it first came up, we didn't have expenses that we discussed it. We didn't have anything to look for reimbursement on at that time. We probably
For the
will.
CARES.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean,
We probably will, so it's a good thing to look at it.
they rattled off a lot of different things that you don't normally think about. Like I said, like the attorney fees, but there were 5 or 6 items that you just go, oh, wow, yeah. That'd be good.
Yeah, another thing we can use for the card box is like the extra things we have to buy for the condo, like the Zoom, computers,
Yeah.
microphones. all
Yeah,
that
any
can
kind
go
of
into it.
PPE, I gave Rachel the sheet on it so she could scan it and send it to the commissioners, but it sounded like a good thing. But anyway, since they're free, if you wanted to just update on the grant status.
You want current grants, past grants, what's going through, what's coming in?
I think
All
again,
of it.
yeah,
I'm sure
Okay,
the council like to hear too. So.
okay, right now we are processing the payment for the radios, for the foundation grant, on the respirators. They had to put in a trouble ticket for my salary reimbursement for 2019. The grant for the 2020 is already out, it's due July 31st. I am doing the LAPC grant, which is up to 15,000 now, with no match. That's also due in on the 31st of this month. I'm also into the FEMA portal doing all of that, getting it all uploaded and getting my documents and getting my invoices and everything like that in when I get them from the other departments. I talked to Cody Keith down at Shade, and he says so we can make our 3,000. We can start combining departments. One of the things I talked with Georgette over at the courthouse, because they wanted to put in computers and start doing Zoom court cases and stuff like that. Well, like I was telling Dave, that's one of the things the CARES Act will cover, because it is related to the COVID that we have to do this. And for PPE, we can also put in, so she can actually put in for PPE from FEMA, so she can get that reimbursed as well. I think that's about.
maybe for the next meeting, and I don't mean to speak out of turn for the commissioners, but I think in the past, we had some kind of a spreadsheet that just showed like a balance sheet.
Yes.
Maybe that would be helpful if you could just update that. That might be
Yeah, I
able to
can
see the
email that
numbers. That
all
might.
out. Yeah, I can email that. I can
Yeah,
keep track
yes.
of all that.
Just at the next meeting, and then that way we can see, in particular with this COVID thing, there should be all kinds of money available. We need to pursue every nickel that's out there.
Because they've actually stopped funding a couple of really big, like, Main Street type things that they were doing just to take that money run through the year. They were talking about that at the meeting too, so.
You want to talk a little bit about the radio grant?
Yes.
Explain, because
Um,
nobody, as far as I know, nobody's ever really talked to us about it.
A radio grant is for our firefighters, our law enforcement, and it was like 149,000 and some change, where we updated our 800 radios, so they actually are phase 2 compatible when we go, but they're actually phase 1 right now. So we've actually replaced our old outdated 800 radios that weren't very capable of getting out, and they were breaking down more than what they were working. So now we actually have, each fire department got 10, the sheriff's department, if I remember correctly, got 14. He's not, but yeah, they got 14. Hamlet got 1, and that was all from that grant, which is our terrorist grant, which is our SHP grant.
I can't speak for all the departments, but most of them have switched over and we're using 800 only instead of using the old VHF system that was down all the time.
Yes. Which is one of the reasons we went with the 800, because the fire departments couldn't afford that big of a hit to their budget, and we can pull this off through this grant.
Brad, it is working a lot better now, you're getting reception.
Using the 800s? Oh, yeah.
A lot better, good.
And I don't, like I said before, I can't speak for the other departments, but we had 8 or 10 of them of our own that we purchased ourselves. So,
At the Kenwood you
yeah,
told me
so
about.
now we have enough, that's, the Kenwood is,
I like that.
that's what we got with the grant, are identical to those. And I know we use them religiously now, Knox uses them religiously.
Coons Lake uses them.
Coons Lake.
San Pierre's now using them. I know North Justin, so they don't have their radio problems that they used to have now. They are actually using them too. Bass Lake has not got back with us. One of the things that we did mandate with these radios is training, because they were used to the VHF radio, which is a different type of radio system. We did require them to be taught how to use the 800, so they were used properly. One of the things we did with the MOU is we told them that they are responsible for any maintenance done on the radio, like changing the batteries, changing the antenna. If they get lost, if they get stolen, if they get ran over, what damage, they are responsible for that. That was all wrote up in the MOU that was signed by each department. So they understand what they are liable for.
So we also have assets management built to that, because that's where we went wrong with our previous grants.
We actually
Fire
are
departments got
tracking,
them, trashed them, let the
Yeah.
batteries die and said, hey, county, you need to buy us batteries for the radio. It's like, no, we gave you radios that had working batteries with them.
we actually are tracking them by serial number and talk.
But they
Everyone
also
has-
know that you gave them a working radio.
They
on-
signed an MOU. They signed it with all serial numbers on there.
Could
You
you
can
email us
attest
a
to
copy of that to the council?
Yeah, nice to do it. I know we're waiting for Bass Lake to do their training on that, and then we can get
Did
them
all the
together.
other departments get theirs in?
All but Bass Lake, they're doing. So that's where we're standing with those, but that was mandatory. That's one thing I made sure.
They're
that
being
they went
difficult about
through.
receiving them.
No, they're being difficult about setting up the training. They don't want to take the training.
I'll talk to Bass Lake about it.
And I can talk to him as well. I thought the training was gonna be pretty stupid myself, because, we've had them for how long, but it actually wasn't. Matt Noonan did it for us. Matt's the one who programmed the radios.
He works for the state now.
Yes,
Yes.
his,
For IPSC.
these radios are programmed different than the ones that we had, so they work different.
I heard
So-
some firemen were sore that they weren't getting the police channels on there because they like to monitor the police calls. But
We were very stringent on that one, that they would have fire only, they will only, and police won't have police.
They have fire and EMS.
I could see why chief officers have that, but the regular run of the mill
Right.
guys don't.
Yes, we made sure that, because the sheriff asked, and we followed their request.
So by next, is that reasonable by the next meeting that you would have that balance sheet updated for us?
Yeah, I think that's running list on what's where and price reports and all that good stuff.
Thank you. Does anybody else have anything for Gene?
No, we'll see you at the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Gene.
You probably need to have a regular update at least once a month,
Yeah.
especially with this COVID thing.
Yes, I am actually doing the EMA advisory board tonight. Which you're on, and you're on, and you're on.
In August, we're having a meeting, right?
We have to have
Yeah,
a makeup
right, you
meeting.
put on- Right,
Yeah,
correct.
so
But
it
it's
will be in
August, so
August, yes, and that's right after the LEPC meeting.
Yes, okay, I'll be there.
Hey, thanks for doing a good job. You did great.
Thank you, Sarah.
So the next thing was this quote discussion. We talked a little bit about it today in our budget workshops. There's just been discussion for a long time of us becoming more responsible with discretionary spending. And I spoke to Marty about it, actually. We were, Rachel and I, the last couple of weeks have been going over the budgets to kind of try to speed things up and make them smooth for today. But working out some kind of a process. I don't believe you found any help from any of your auditor friends, correct? So, but the idea would be a qualification, vendor qualifications. And I've talked to I talked to you about it as well, Bobby, today, as we talked about the other day. But basically, just becoming more responsible with the spending. Because originally we talked about creating in the general fund a line where all the repair lines all went into one. That way the commissioners would have not better control, but better knowledge of how the dollars are being spent and that policies for spending are being followed. So we decided today maybe to take baby steps, but at least to get started with the policy part of it. And some of the thoughts we have are qualifying vendors, hopefully 3. If there's a situation where there's an emergency, that the commissioner set some kind of a threshold, 300, I don't know what it is. But for those lines, that the only way would be emergency spending, and that when you went out, that you would get quotes, at least 3 quotes. Hopefully you already have pre-qualified vendors and you call them up and say, hey, send me a quote for these. What's that going to take? 5 minutes each?
Dave, just one thing, I think maybe just for everybody to understand the context, what you're talking about, the statutory framework has things that above which require,
Yes.
large public work projects require actual bids. You see where that bid process wouldn't be affected by this. There's also a low group of things that you can just go shop for. You need like a box of paper clips.
Right.
You can just go buy those.
But a
in the middle-
$750 set of tires.
Right,
for example.
$750, or a lot, even more. It could be $5,000 in that range. There is no requirement of a formal bid, but what you're supposed to do is get 3 written quotes. That's the
Right.
goal. Sometimes that's not so easy, particularly when you have branded items. And the other thing that I want to kind of contrast for everybody to understand the context is this applies to items that are subject to routine specifications. Not so much to personal service, because that's more of a consulting contract, which doesn't apply. So this is items that you might buy, like a muffler, a set of tires, and so that's the context of what you're talking about.
And the other thing for me personally, as a council person, and I'm just going to use one business as an example because we brought up tires. Wayne's Oil and Lube sells tires. Hopefully they would be one of the attempts to be a qualified vendor, or one of the other businesses in town, or other services. You know what I mean? The farm stores in town. If there are certain things you can get from those, and there would be a process.
I would think that buying tires that people buy from the state bids that are set up for the county, any county departments is applicable for those discounts. I mean, when I put some on the surveyor's truck, I wouldn't even deal with anybody that didn't do the state bid, because that's cheaper than what you deal with other places did.
So there you go. There'd be a perfect example too of things that for certain things in the vendor qualification, that would be in the guideline. But anyways, that's what we'd like to propose from the council, is a mechanism for that. And I mean, I think it would be a work in progress. I believe, Marty, did you say that you were going to take kind of a stab at some structure for that?
Well, what I would suggest, I think one of the things about it is just an observation. I don't know if this is true or not, but one of the things about it is, frankly, you got to make it easy. Because it's easy to kind of backslide on it, because especially on the smaller end. So I was hoping we could come up with some kind of like an electronic form that could be filled out that would make this really streamline it, and also make it easier for Rachel to keep track of all this stuff coming in.
Both for the vendor qualification and for the corporate.
Yeah, I think that it's just a hard thing to keep up on, because it comes up so often and everybody's trying to get the job done and all that. So I think we need to make it easy to, and this is what I'm saying.
So maybe we can keep the discussion going, keep this as a living.
But I guess you were like looking for whether somebody else had implemented that, and you didn't find anybody that had.
She's still working on it.
Oh, okay. No, well,
It's a work in progress.
It's been a busy last couple of weeks. I can tell you that. I hear you. So, but if that's the goal, then we may be able to find somebody who's done it. I would think, and then it wouldn't be that hard to implement, and it'll also make record keeping really easy. You kind of take care of itself.
And it also lends to transparency, which is something that we always want, and also just responsible spending moving forward. Things are going to keep getting tighter.
I myself just bought 2 sets of tires. The best price, the best tires I got was from Miller's office.
Another local business. So that would be the other goal of this.
They beat Walmart out, everybody. Miller's on.
We have a lot of things in town where people can buy locally, so that would help that, so. That was all on that. And then the last thing on our agenda was the employee, we haven't had one of those in a while, have we? I remember
We did
we had.
last year, you
Last
did
year.
come.
You didn't
I
show
don't think
up.
I was invited.
Yes, I was invited.
No, I'm pretty sure I was.
I think you were out of town. We
Let me
missed,
guess,
we missed you.
so I get to pay for it this year. Right?
I'm requesting approval from the Board of Commissioners and the Stark County Council for $1,800 to be spent out of the no appropriation fund for an employee appreciation event contingent upon our COVID situation.
I remember we used to just buy hot dog buns, hot dogs, and set the grill up out here. But what would that include then? Like what would
That
you-
would include
Proposed
meals
event.
for the employees.
like a cookout though, or like what would you?
No, we're actually going to have it, last year we had a VFW and had a caterer. And the VFW, it gave us
That's
the
where you're doing it
room
again?
for free.
That's where you want to do it again.
Yes,
I remember you sent me a picture.
and Bob has generously given us the VFW.
That Bob.
Heck, if they-
And so what you want is a resolution like the one last year, only with $1,800 in funding, is that correct?
Yeah, from no appropriation.
Is that something that can be approved pending the draft of the resolution, or do we have to have the resolution in
I
hand
don't
to
see
be able to
why
do
not,
that?
it's the same as last year.
So somebody could move that we accept
the.
the same, as long as the wording, contingent that the wording is the same as last year's.
Yeah, only with the change with the funding.
Would anybody have any problem with that, on the council or commissioners, if something was worded that way? Am I gonna
That's
get
just
invited
fine.
this year?
You probably won't get invited. People don't like it.
Well, we're past 6:15, so,
I know.
So moved.
so we have a motion from Brad to
Thank you, Brad.
accept that, as
Maybe
long
you'll
as
like
it's
me
worded,
for the rest of
contingent
the
that it's worded the same as last year. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Howard. Is there any further discussion?
Well, I just want to say, the council may want to attend this employee appreciation event.
We gotta get
It'll
invited
be
first.
Quite entertaining, I'm sure.
Really?
Yes.
It was last year.
You get entertained?
It's gonna be very
Now
entertaining.
with COVID, I'm not traveling, so. All those in favor, please say aye.
Uh,
Is there any opposed? Is there any other business for the council?
Two things that I like to address. One, you guys want $100,000 each, that's all. I can understand that. My biggest pet peeve is a skill center. I like the skill center to continue on going. I grew up with these kids. I see these kids now out of the skill center, working, buying their own homes at the age of 20, 21. I think the skill center made a lot of men come out of there. And to see them being cut, I think it's a disaster because they pay taxes now, they're not trouble or anything else. The second thing I think is just a rumor though, but it hit me really, really hard. When a child does not have enough money in school for their meals, they take it and throw it in the trash. That is totally evil, totally evil. The problem is not with the child, not to embarrass the child in school, but to go to the parents. Is to go to the parents. Does it make any sense to grab a child's food because the parents didn't pay the bill and throw it in the trash, or let them eat it? Don't embarrass the child, go after the parent.
As far as that one, that really has absolutely
Yeah.
nothing. I don't know anything about it.
Actually,
and
that-
that-
I don't know if
Actually, though, the
it's over or
school
not.
board meetings are very informative for things like that, so I would say that would be a good thing to bring there. And I would also say that for the school board meetings, the skill topic is also something that's worthwhile to bring up. Because again, this whole discussion about skill has not just been, it hasn't just happened just like in the last couple of weeks or this year. This has been a decade of discussion on how we could just better manage our economic development funds. It has nothing to do with government wanting to cut skill. We believe in skill. We're happy about it. But what we learned was, and correct me if I'm wrong, was that in every other county, the school is involved with that. It's not normal for a county to be involved in education unless you can educate everybody about everything that's a resident and taxpayer. So it's been kind of secularized. but we're in support of that. We want people to live in Stark County and work in Stark County. It has nothing to do with lack of support. It has to do with the fact that the county has such a small amount of economic development funds. And personally, I'm not gonna pick on the school. You know, we all share a levy, you know, we all share a pot of money. And a lot of that education side comes from that. And so it's the feeling of government that there's that money there, that's education money. You know, the county's involved in infrastructure. We're involved with economic development.
Dave, I know it's a done deal, so I'm trying not to sit and scream at Howard. Would like to point out a couple things. July 2nd, I celebrated my 10th year of skill. If I remember correctly, we got the same amount of money that year as we did up through last year from the county. It's an absolutely necessary pot of money for skill to exist. We are totally separate from the school system. The schools pay tuition for each one of the students that come there. But skill's one of the biggest sources of pride that this county has.
That's right.
There are people that, honest to God, you know, think of us as Starvation County and some of those kind of things. And they come to Skill for various things and go, you guys have that here in Stark County? We've had state legislators, we've had congressional people have come to Skill and have raved about it.
Most of us have been there and seen how great it is. I mean, it's amazing. So
But and this is really important. We're gonna dig deep and get through this year. But there's no way in God's green earth without help from the county that Skill's gonna continue. And if it doesn't, if you don't think that Plymouth won't grab it by the teeth like a dragon, we're crazy. We can't afford to lose that as an image. The amount of money that it brings into the community, my gosh, in heaven, between McDonald's and Taco Bell, Skill probably puts $100,000 in each one of their tills, for gracious sakes. I almost wish that we could get, you know, like a kickback from that.
I
What that
understand.
has to do, let me finish, please. What that has to do with economic development, that's way above my pay grade. But why it couldn't have been scaled back, a partial amount of funding, something along those lines. Do you have any concept of the hundreds of men and women? Because they're men and women now, they're not boys and girls, that have come through our program that are, as was stated, taxpayers, off welfare rolls, got insurance to where they're not a toll on the hospital, and on and on and on, including, you say, well, those kids come from out of county. No, they don't. 65% of them are Stark County kids. And we have worked very hard at, let's get them jobs that, even if they travel outside of Stark County for their jobs, they still want to live. Critical thing, folks, they still want to live in Stark County. Unlike the mass exodus of a number of the rest of our students here. And if you're not willing to support that,
Yes.
then it's going to go away.
Jerry, if I could rebut that, actually, we did ask that. We asked how many people are employed that work at Skill in Stark County. Nobody could give us an answer.
How many of them still live here?
Yeah.
We
the
never got an
commissioners
answer.
asked-
Right here.
The
Right here,
commissioners,
right here.
the commissioners asked Ron Gifford for a report with some specific items. Deliver this report, and this year we'll consider the funding. We're not gonna guarantee it next year, but it was almost that black and white that that they wanted that. It didn't happen. The report came and it was the usual thing. Correct me if I'm wrong, and it didn't fulfill the obligation that you put forth for the report. So that was the issue. It had nothing to do with the way the county feels about Skill. I mean, the other thing we've asked for many times too, and I know it was brought up that fire and EMS training is going on. We've asked for other things like farming, the other problem is it's just welding centric, and you run out of industries that are gonna use the welding, but we have a lot of other businesses in Stark County.
And I understand why you'd say that, because I thought the same thing. For gracious sake, we can't continue to train welders for 10 years. We won't need them anymore. It's continued to be full every year, and our adult classes continue to be full every year.
You know what? I don't wanna make it a debate about that, because it's not. The Economic Development Foundation was asked for some specific things. They weren't delivered upon. So the commissioners made the decision on that. We take the recommendation on how the thing should be funded based on what they were asked.
I've never heard of anybody ask for anything.
Well, they would have asked us.
Okay, that didn't come to me. Part of that, we can get you. Part of that is impossible. I mean, we try to do a pretty good job of following our kids, but they're 18, 19, 20 through 25. Half of them, when I find out what they're doing and what they're making, maybe we should get them to give a kickback, because we've got probably 25 kids that have come through our programs that are under 25 years of age, making over $75,000 a year. Maybe we could get them to kick back the skill for the first couple of years or something. I doubt it, but maybe it's worth out.
But then what do you
We'll
mean?
get
And then
whatever-
it'll become self-sustaining, because we've been asking about self-sustenance for a decade. And, so far, 80,000 is still keeping you from surviving. I mean, it's a massive program. I can't see even, in all honesty, in a program of that size, how would $80,000 be the thing that makes you or break you? Again, I'm just asking that just because, we have been talking about self-sustenance for a long time. I mean, even when the state starts programs of any sort, that's the one thing they want you to focus on, is that it's self-sustaining.
As you said, we're gonna add EMT and fire rescue.
Here's one of the things we asked, Jerry. We asked that a study be done to identify the educational needs for the people in this county. I don't know that we brought up EMTs and we brought up fire just simply because we have a need for that in our little groups. But I don't know if that's the most pressing need. I don't know if that's the best place to put your dollars. And when I asked, the guy from Plymouth that doesn't live here. No, Ron Gifford. When I asked Ron about I said, have you done any studies? How do you identify what it is that you choose? He said, well, we just ask the employer. So it's just kind of an up, good old boy kind of thing. There are statistics out there that should be able to tell you. And here's another thing too that I want to say here. And I want to address the folks over here that are here in support of skill. To be clear, we have never, ever disparaged skill. We have no trouble with the training programs there. It's all a matter of pay. And we've been asking for very many years, what are you going to do to alleviate this funding that you get from the county? Because we don't fund anything else. We don't fund the beauticians that are going, and they're in the same boat, I think, that the welders are. We don't fund nothing else except for the skill program, and no other county provides any funding for that, but we get students from other places for that. So the taxpayers here are funding students from other places, number one. I'm not done. I'm not done. I'm not done. I'm not done.
We go there for a job because there's none here.
Exactly.
So if we train our kids here, they will come here.
Well, let me go
will
on
come.
to that. I agree with you on that. But let me finish. So we have asked repeatedly, you need to do something else about your funding, because we do have a shrinking tax base. These are school programs. 50% of my tax dollars go to the Knox schools for my property taxes. Only 25% come to the county, and it's out of those 25% that you're wanting more money. The state provides training programs, and during this COVID thing, they have upped those training programs. They provide grants for employers to get their employees trained. They provide training and grants for people to get their training. We've asked them to take a look at that. Can you partner with them? Can you get it? And no, it won't work for us. It won't work for us. So yes, there's been some other issues. You don't know all the discussions that have been had.
Disconnect is what you're saying.
Yes. So this is what I'm telling you. We told Larry we are, and we're gonna be discussing it tonight, we're getting an outside independent agency to come in here and evaluate economic development. And one of these is a really good, the one Larry liked is also the one I like. We asked him to wait for that and said, you know, we don't want to do anything, we want changes, we want something to change here. But we want this independent review first. And there's plenty of money over there at Economic Development Foundation, because he told us all about the CDs they had. So we said, take some of your CDs if you believe in this program that much, and you pay for it while we get this evaluation, and then maybe we can come back to the table and talk about what we can do and what we can't do. So I think, you know, you guys have not heard the whole story. You're being a little bit misled. It's very one-sided. And it is not that we don't support the Skill Center, because we do. I had a brother that was a millwright, a journeyman millwright. He worked at the steel mill for years and years. He would have much rather had a job here, but there was none for him. You know, it's not that we want the economics in Stark County to improve. We want our people to have good paying jobs. We want that to happen, which is why we're getting this review, because we don't think we're getting what we have been paying for.
You have people that live in Stark County that I know. They will fight. They're making $32, $37 an hour, and they come here to live, and they learn from the Skill Center.
That's good. That's
All right.
good.
To eliminate it, when we have a governor saying he has $200 and something million surplus, which I don't believe in it, because the surplus does not belong to him. It belongs to the people of Indiana. That's our money. Let's spend it here in Stark County. All
Well,
right?
that's something
Let's
you have
start
to bring up with the
developing
governor.
our kids. We could build a jail. We can't get a swimming pool. I suggested a kid do 3 book reports. He goes to the pool in school and let him swim in the summer. No, they can't do that. Why? We got a beautiful library. Let's utilize the pool. We won't even do that. We need something for these young kids. That's our future.
Well, I don't disagree
We
with
are the
that.
past.
I don't disagree with you on that. But I think the approach to how we get to where we need to be is where we're trying to forge the path right now. So I don't disagree with what you're saying. But we can't fix all those issues that you just laid down here in the last 30 seconds.
We
But
can't.
we
Well, let's
can.
address them.
Well, and that's
Well, most of them
exactly
have
what we're
nothing to
gonna
do
do
with
with
us.
this evaluation.
Has everything to do with all of us. here.
Unfortunately.
But we
state-
have no
state government
control over
is
the
so-
school and the
it's
pool
separate.
and.
Yeah, but we could come up with suggestions. What we're asking for is help. Help us keep what we have. How do we go about that? Grants. Let's make some grants. If we can't do the grants,
You need to
if we
ask
can't do
these
the
folks.
good grants, all right, and we don't know how, let's hire a private firm.
Well,
Catherine,
we do have a private firm, number one,
All right.
that does do grants. However, that is up to the Skill Center and Economic Development to find the grants that they want to support the Skill Center.
Well, there-
I have forwarded email after email that has come from the state. The state provides training programs. They provide funding. And I've sent that to them multiple occasions. It's not my job to look for their grants. It is their job to look for their grants. If I have to look for their grants and do all their work for them, we don't need them.
They're teachers, you don't know how to help, you can't teach.
Well, that's probably true, but neither can Larry, neither
They're
can
teachers that
Mr.
never
Dorado.
Hey, their hands are full, I've been there.
I can
I've been
solder
there,
with a
Dorado.
solder
I
gun
was
on
a
a
teacher
torch.
for Ryder Truck Ride. I taught.
We're gonna have to close the discussion. It's gonna just take a lot more.
Finish
time.
what I started. I want to understand, Kathy, are you saying that there's still a slim possibility of maybe getting some funding upon this review?
It depends on how this review comes out. Let me tell you, what we said is we want some changes. We want some changes at the Skill Center. We want some changes at the Economic Development Center. And we've been criticized in the past, and let me tell you, and I have to say this, I have to make this statement. I've been to a number of those meetings, and if you don't agree with what goes on with them, buddy, boy, they put you under and the character assassinations are terrible out of that group. That group, for one thing, they will, and which I don't appreciate. I don't appreciate that at all. I'm pretty sure, based on these people here being so riled up, there was a little character assassination going on, and they didn't get the full story, number one. what I'm saying is that we're gonna get this review and we're gonna sit down and we're gonna take a look at it. Larry is gonna participate in the review. I'll have them call you because they wanna evaluate, they wanna talk to some of the stakeholders. We'll have them call you, Jerry. You
I'll
can
be
be one of the stakeholders. Leave your name, sir. We'll have them call
I
you
gave it to
too.
you before, Ronald Van, VANNA.
Well, we need contact information. I don't know who you are, Ronald Van.
Ronald Van.
I will from now on, I'm pretty sure, but
VANNA 773-894-8292.
you got that, Rachel? If you guys want to talk to this
1720
consultant,
Nice
leave your
meeting
names
all.
and telephone number, and we'll give them your telephone numbers as well. Give them to Rachel, and you can talk to them. But we're not gonna do anything until we get this review to see what they're experts in this field. I've been told on more than one occasion, you don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I don't.
So, no, me. And I think I do know what I'm talking about a lot of times. So, and that's from that group. So,
No, I like all of you. All I want is this town, when I came here 13 years ago, and I see a big difference in it. I want these kids to have trades, get educated, build this town back up, forget about all the drugs, all the alcohol and everything else, give them something to do, and they go out of Stark County to get better jobs because we don't have any here, because nobody wants to come here. Our kids have felonies for drinking. Anybody in here drink a beer before they were 21? Because I sure did.
it was Boone's Farm.
Oh, yeah, okay. I remember walking into that liquor store. But
I
that's
think
all.
we're all,
Yeah.
we are all.
Let's help the skill centers.
We're trying to figure out
How to
a
do
proper
it.
way to run it. I think is what we're
Basically,
trying to figure out how to do. Like Kathy said, maybe we can get some grants and stuff where it doesn't cost so many people in Stark County, so like.
Well, the federal government
Well,
is
see, this is
definitely.
what I don't
involved
understand.
too.
You know, that's what we're.
This is what I don't understand. They don't have a problem raising my property taxes,
No,
all right? So give some of that money back to my kids. I got the problem raising my kids. And I want my
Are you
kids
talking
to
about
raise
your
good.
Illinois home or your Indiana home? Because we have capped property taxes in Indiana, so I
I
have
have
to be really
both.
careful about, so you mean Illinois, not
No,
Indiana?
I
We don't-
houses
we
in
don't
Illinois
raise-
and Indiana.
We don't raise taxes. in
And I
Indiana.
got all this by a trade.
So if I could just give Larry a second and then we'll adjourn and we'll transfer over to commissioners because they've got some business to cover too, but. we
I
want-
just want to make one thing clear that I'm not sure some of the people know, and that is the funding that comes to skill comes predominantly from the schools. The schools actually put in over 4 times as much money into skill as what the county does. And I just wanted to make that clear that the schools send a lot of money into this. I was a little embarrassed when we were talking last week that they're not supporting skill. They are the biggest carrier of skill. The county just kind of.
I don't think the government's saying that. What we're saying is we'd like to see them, why can't they just fund the other 80,000? And I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, it's
I'd
educational.
like to see-
I think that was, I don't think anybody was, you know.
Why are we paying for Marshall County, St. Joe County to go?
It's just $100.
Counties, cities that support workforce development. That's up to that level and beyond. We're not the only ones that do that. It all comes back to, well, Marshall County doesn't put money into skill, well, they don't, but Plymouth schools support skill like crazy.
Well, it's
But
probably-
Marshall County, how do they, Larry?
Pardon me?
Other than the $1,500 per student, how does Plymouth School support it like crazy?
It's not 1,500.
how much is it?
How much is it? We were told 1,500 per student, Knox,
That's
Fulton
what
County,
Culver told
Marshall
me they
County,
paid
that's
for their
what we were told.
I think the cheapest program in any of our total co-op is 2,500.
That the school system puts in.
Well,
Now,
the-
is Knox school system putting in the same amount? It's 2,500?
Wherever the student comes from, that school will
Yeah.
put 2,500 in for 2 of the programs, and for the auto tech.
Okay.
3,200.
All right, well, we were misled on that. We were told 1,500 or something like
I
that.
have an email from the superintendent of schools at Culver that says she pays 1,500 per student to come to the skill center. She sent it to me 2 weeks ago, whenever you asked her to email us.
Right, so we were misled on
And
that.
I forwarded that to the council.
And
That's a big thing.
And-
There's so much
misinformation that everybody's getting.
Right.
Nobody knows for sure what's going on,
And we
which
asked,
is why we're trying to get
They
this
know.
firm to come in
Well,
and
we've
tell
asked
us.
them- We've asked them. You were sitting right here. You and I got into it.
We
I
did?
asked, yes, we did. I asked, Ron, how much do you get per student? He said some number. I said, that is, how much does it cost you per student to produce it? He gave me, I said, then you're making money on it. Oh, no, that's not true. I said, well, that's what you just said, Ron. But we have never, ever, Ron, we don't get the information that we asked for.
When we started this program, we need some funds to get that thing going. That's where if we make a little extra money in a year, it's held for when we start the next program where we have some other expense in the existing program, we have to update equipment. So I mean, when you look on it year to year, yeah, there's years when we have a little extra, but that's in the account.
Well, you know, this is the first time we've ever heard anything like that. We've been asking for years, but we get the runaround, in particular from Ron Gifford. He doesn't want to answer the questions. He talks a lot and says nothing. You know,
Right.
and I am very good at cutting through the BS.
I think
Kathy.
it's probably ready to go.
I support the skill center. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies, for being here. I'm glad you're very successful people in life, and I hope the skill center continues to produce more successful people. And sir, thank you for being here. What you said makes a lot of sense. You had just said, Jerry had just said 65% of the skill center is utilized by Stark County students, right? Am I right? Stark County's paying we were under the impression that it was $1,500 or
That's
so,
what she said
so,
that
right,
email.
so we were under maybe a false impression there that we were misled. I'm going to assume that every school system, Stark County school systems, Fulton County school systems, and Marshall County school systems utilize the skill center, right? And St. Joe. And they're all paying the same per capita per student, per head, that comes through. Okay? My question is this, is we're putting $80,000 a year into the skill center. I would like to see Fulton, Marshall, St. Joe, the counties that are sending students over here. That's 35% of your student base. I'd like to see them, other than putting in the $2,500 per student, that Stark County does have a little skin in the game financially too.
Great idea, Howard.
I do.
However, are we gonna be willing to do the same thing when Marshall County then says, well, but we have 100 kids coming from Stark County that are in the programs that are located in Plymouth?
Actually, maybe, because we talked about the 80,000 becoming a grant program. We've been talking about this, like help us come up with some other way to where this has to be available to more people in the county. We have to base things on the greater good. I mean, government isn't intended to focus on education, for example. That's why you have school system with separate budget and things like that. But that was the main idea that we've come up with this, and we've been talking about the grant program for at least 6 years. Maybe we could. Maybe then we just pay for the kids that apply and qualify, they get the grant to go to Plymouth. I mean, the fact that it has to stay here, I mean, don't you guys looking for a new building and everything else? What if Plymouth already had a building and you had it already there and they had as good of a program? Because I'll tell you what, Plymouth's a 15-minute drive. If anybody's going to say, oh, that's going to kill the program because they're not going to want to drive 15 minutes, I don't believe that.
It's not a 15-minute drive to North Judson.
Okay, 30 minutes, but if they're on a grant, look, I'm just saying that we talked about a
It's an
grant
hour
program.
drive from St. Joe students to drive here, obviously.
This is what got me confused. All right, I'm talking about our future, our tax base, which is our children. I just sat here and seen, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of dollars go to an old courthouse and we got a new one. I'm confused.
It's because we're in the courthouse business. We're not in the education business.
So
We
we're
are
in the
not-
jailhouse business locking the
That's
kids
right.
up
That's
to make money
Yeah, that's part of
instead of
county,
educating.
that's part of county infrastructure. So again, I don't want to take any more time on that, but I'd be willing to meet with you one-on-one and explain what we support and financially our structure. I do that very often when people want to talk about it. I'd be glad to meet with you in private.
I'll be glad to take you out to dinner and talk about it.
I'll buy.
I'd like to make one more comment, directed at comment that you guys made as far as why do we spend 80,000 here and they don't in Plymouth? We started steel here back when it was started, so we had some training here in our county, so people didn't have to go, at that time, we were talking about adults, go to Valpo or go to South Bend to get training. We wanted training in Stark County, so we had it accessible here. And that's one of the reasons we supported for the high school to keep those programs here. If we say, well, we're not gonna support it, and 1 year down, if we're out for 1 year, we lose all of our programs, and we'll never get them back, because that equipment that they have was given by the co-op, and that'll go to another school, Plymouth or somebody else that'll pick up those programs, and then our kids have to go to
Right
Plymouth.
up.
So the kids I know at North Judson are gonna say, am I gonna take time to go all the way to Plymouth or one of those other schools? No, I think I'll just skip out on workforce training. The schools need pathways to graduation for these kids with the new state program that's in process now. That's one thing that skill does, it provides that workforce for that pathway to graduation through workforce training. And if we close it down, we don't provide that for them.
Well, and just so I can comment to that, we are part of the county executive, but the commissioners are the county executive. The commissioners ask for some very specific things with, and you know, I don't want to say dangling a carrot, but with that idea of, hey, if you want this funding, then we want you to deliver these items that I'm asking for. And
I would say that's very correct. And the only other thing that I can say is, again, we're getting an evaluation, we're preparing to, and if you have money, Larry, at the economic development, lend it to the skill and take it out of your,
Every
CDs.
dollar we have designated to go on some project for the county. We're gonna put a bunch of money in Division Road that frankly, I feel the county should have been paying for, but we're gonna have to pay for it. But we have, other than that, we have other projects. We want to build a new building at school scale. In order to do that, we had to have a local match. That's what some of it's sitting at.
Well, we're talking about this year. You offered to give us $50,000 when you wanted to apply for that grant. So there's 50 right there. You need another 30. If you had enough a month ago for that, then you should have enough
That
now.
50, Kathy, was 50,000 we had set aside for a revolving loan fund. And that's the 50.
I'll loan it to the skill center.
Then there goes the loan.
Well, that's coming up for evaluation as well. I mean, it's not my job to tell you where to get your money, Larry. You know where your money is, and only you and your board can decide how you want to spend those funds. And as far as your road on Division Road, since the coffee company isn't coming, I don't see that as a big priority right now.
Infrastructure is something that those folks want to talk about in this review, so that'd be a discussion.
Yes, absolutely.
So, I think we kind of exhausted that for now. Oh, I'm sorry.
I wanted to add one thing. Before the welding class even came to Stark County, jobs like Sabre, Cruise, and JW Hicks, they were at $9 to like $12 an hour. Now, when I started at Sabre, I was driving a semi. I got laid off. I went to Sabre. The wages went up for some of the people that were there. We all know Stark County has a drug problem, right? Everyone's aware of that. Well, that's all Sabre used to be. Now, when I went there, after I got laid off, I started at $17 an hour. That's a big bump from what it was 10 years ago. That's a big bump. It's $7 an hour more. And it was all kids my age in there that all learned how to weld that skill. Look at JW Hicks. I mean, we're all aware of how much that's grown in 3 or 4 years, right? I mean, we're all aware, and they have a bunch of welders there, and they're paying $19 an hour. Cruise, $15 an hour. I mean, that's all jobs that are.
And we're not debating that with you. We believe in it.
I can get more tax money with higher education kids than we do with $14 an hour, $12 an hour at McDonald's. You take more of his money, being educated, no problem, going to a skill center, learning a skill. I retired from Chicago at $37 an hour 20 years ago. I am 73.
Was that Cook County?
No, Chicago, Illinois. And we did the water pipes and everything else, water meters.
But was that funded by government? Was your education
No, it
funded
was
by
funded by the
government?
water department itself because we sold water to nearby towns. Plus we have our water meters that you guys have. You generate.
Again, we don't want to discourage you guys. I'm glad to hear that you guys are getting these great jobs.
And we
Because
want to keep it
as a
that way.
county
That's
official,
why
it's
we're
great.
here.
It's hard to sit up here and wonder, are people eating? Are people having as good of a life in Stark County that they have in Porter County or other counties? We want to hear those
Well,
kind
I'm
of things.
just
We're happy
saying,
We
about
gotta
that.
bring it up to it be a better life.
I was just gonna add another thing. We're all aware of the drug problem also here. Now, I know people that been to jail for drugs and like really other good jobs in the area won't hire them, but they can go to work one and get into the welding center because it's here. If it was in Plymouth, they wouldn't go. They don't have cars. They're walking there. And then they'll get a job at Sabre and then go work at Cruise until they can get some of their money up and recuperate. I think that helps out a lot. Because if it was in Plymouth, it wouldn't be helping out because they're just simply not gonna go. That ambition is not there. That drive's not there.
All right, well, I will tell you, long term, we've been asking for a long time for the skills center to be a separate entity, so we could focus those dollars more on economic development, because it's not just welding that we have to deal with. We have to deal with all the other professions, all the other taxpayers and homeowners, all these. The other thing was short term. The reason why this has come to an issue, again, is because the commissioners asked for some very specific items to be delivered to them. It did not happen. It has nothing to do with with politics. It has nothing to do with who has a job or anything else. The commissioners asked for some very specific items and they didn't get them. I mean, in your welding job, you're expected to do certain things, and if you don't do it, then you don't have a job. It's the same thing that we're dealing with here.
Can't take a
It's nothing.
welder and put him in an office. They're two different entities.
I don't think Dave said anything like that.
This
He
is
didn't
a
say anything
welding
like that.
teacher. He probably doesn't know the political motions.
Yeah. Again, it's not political. They were tasked with something. One more question, and I have to get Charlie.
Jerry knows
because
the
he's got a meeting.
I was gonna say, Shane was talking about him tracking down everybody to figure out who's actually got a job that came out of the welding and skill center. You know how hard that would be for him to, you know how many numbers of people have changed? How is he gonna call them to
It's
get?
impossible.
Yeah, how is he gonna track down, like, hey, do you have a job right now? Where are you working? Do you still live in Stark County? Cause like what she said earlier.
I don't totally agree with that. I went to IU, and IU always wants to know, what am I doing? Because they want
This is
funding.
high school. Yeah, this is high school though, like.
Yeah,
this
you
is,
went to IU.
It's,
Well,
you know, difficult that
right.
route for someone to try and.
But I
track
think
down.
Jerry did say maybe that would be something that would help sustain the program, is to go to the alum.
How would he go about doing it?
I was being facetious.
Oh.
Yeah, how would he go about doing it?
I was gonna say, IU hits me up all the time.
I do the same.
So does Notre Dame.
You know, maybe, if you guys want statistics on what our graduates are doing and where they're at,
No, what was asked were some very specific things for the commissioners. It wasn't just that. It was a set list of items that they wanted. A report was given back. Then the commissioners, in a joint meeting, we received it. And the commissioners, we saw it too. Honestly, it really was just, it was the same thing that I've seen for the last 11 years. Instead of the specific items that the commissioner said, I want you to do 1, 2, 3, and 4. I don't think there were a zillion things on there, but there were like 4 or 5 very specific items that they said, address these, and then we're going to make a better consideration. The report came back. The commissioners communicated, hey, you guys didn't hit the mark. Nothing ever happened. So the commissioners and the council, obviously, then when that comes into play, that's when we go, okay, we asked somebody to do something, they didn't do it. At least we're looking at an alternative way to spend the money that still has actually similar, implications, instead of just taking that money and saying, hey, we're going to build a park somewhere, or a monument, or something that's a different type of county entity. We're saying we're going to get an expert involved, develop a program. Skill could be the consumer of that program. I mean, that's still not out of reasonable expectation that Skill could, if it's a grant program, if that's what comes out of it, Skill could apply for it. Students, I don't know what the product's going to be out of it, but again, back to the original discussion, it's that things were asked very specifically to be delivered and they weren't, and that's why we're.
So when that's all done, the research work, when are we gonna bring it back to a meeting and talk about it? Or is that just gonna be one of those things she's gonna call us and say, well, Skill didn't get the grant?
No, it'll definitely have public involvement. Yeah, you brought up the jail. That was a first in Stark County. We had many public meetings. We've had other things after that where we have public meetings. the vote centers, we had public, I mean, anytime there's that's something that I know, again. in
We've
the
even
last
had
decade,
public meetings where we've gone to North Judson and set up public meetings at the high school there. We've set them up over here at the Knox Community Center. We went to Oregon Davis, set up meetings there in their gymnasium
But we
to
never
try to
knew
get
about
to the
it.
people.
We
Well,
never
I mean,
knew
you
about
have
it.
an
I knew about
obligation.
this because I came to you Thursday and I asked about it. All right, because of the skill center, when I heard they were cutting their funds, I was like, how can they do that? That's just crazy. So I came here Thursday and they told me the meeting was today, so I got on Facebook. That's the only way I knew this meeting was today. By me coming. It's not advertised, it's not put nowhere to where we know where you guys are having a meeting.
I
Our
think the
meetings are
newspaper
advertised
puts
every
it in there.
week.
I think WKBI, there are news stories every time we have a meeting.
Is it WKBI?
WK and the newspaper, there's a section on meetings in there.
I always have to check it out because I never
I have
know.
a question about just the timeline on that review. When is it gonna start and when do you expect to have results?
Once we, according to the one that I'm looking at, because they do give a timeline. They're looking at starting sometime in August and being done sometime probably around the end of September, 1st of October. They're talking about 10 to 12 weeks here roughly.
Thank you.
So, actually, we'll just have a little bit of small talk, because one of the things I was curious about, has the Skills Center ever gone to any school board meetings and said, hey, this is such a great program, why doesn't the school want to get more collaterally involved in this? Aside, I know that they're paying the $2,800, but I mean, honestly, $2,800, if you, I don't know, it's probably $3,200, you probably would come up with the $80,000 then, you know what I mean? Like, there's a number of different ways. I hate the fact, this, as a person that is in business in my day job, that 80,000 would kill a program that's that massive and that important. Like, I just, but I'm just curious, like, has anybody ever gone to the schools and,
Dave, it wouldn't just be a matter of, we have 23, 24 programs in the co-op. That means that it's run out of Plymouth. All 10 superintendents in the area are involved in it. And most of those programs are either in Knox or Plymouth. Now, there's construction trade, for example, is on Colburn, John Glenn. But if Skill asks for an increase for their programs, every other program, including graphic arts, including they're all going to ask for an increase also. So we're right back in the same boat.
sounds like county budgets. I understand. I just, I really would.
It's not just our little thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's not our intent to, try to present that we're not all about skill and the other things that charter economic development. We want economic development. We want to see things grow. So again, back to the original thing, and I'll just close it with that. The commissioners had asked for some things originally, they weren't delivered. Now we're in the process of looking at some alternative methods of how to use that money. I don't think it's out of the possibility that Skill would be, back involved in that in some way. I don't know what the program would be.
I would like to mention one last thing that I don't think anybody's ever brought up. And again, I know it's a dead horse. 10 years ago, we had 35 kids in an automotive program. We were getting $80,000 from the county. Today, or not today, last school year, what was that, about 12 years ago? Seems like it was that long ago. We had like 182 kids that were automotive up to 71 instead of 35. That involved 40 welding kids. That involved the only robotics program that is a total industrial maintenance program in the entire state of Indiana. Nobody else is start to finish industrial maintenance like ours is. All those programs have been added, plus the adult welding program. None of those things existed 10 years ago, and it was the same 80,000. So at least know this, whether you don't fund us anymore or you do, you got a hell of a lot more bang for your buck over the last few years than you did.
Well, I'd like to look at it kind of glass half full too. I mean, it's not normal for a county to be involved in education. Schools are involved in education. I'd like to look at it like, hey, we funded it all these years too. I mean, it's never from that approach like, hey, look, Stark County helped us out with this. It's just, oh, Stark County's, kicking the can on this, and it's.
We always said it's a partnership.
Right.
We Skill have always talked about it being a partnership between government, economic development, local industry, and education program. So we
But the only
never
ones
said,
that are paying are the government.
schools are kicking in too.
Well, yes. But none of the businesses, et cetera, et cetera. So all those partnerships you're talking about, they all need to chip in, number one. The other thing I want to mention is I do know that the unions provide a lot of training and education. They have a building trades, they have welding, they have all kinds of stuff. We did suggest that they investigate working with the unions to have them help provide. I know.
I was a union VA. You're 100% right. But we hired them from schools.
Yes.
So you have to let them crawl before we make them walk.
Well, my
Okay.
brother was a union millwright and he's at the steel mill and they provided his
There
education.
is no more steel.
Well, I'm telling you,
There's
that's not
obsolete,
there.
there is robotics.
I have had conversations
Well,
with the
Again, I
unions,
think
and
this
they
is
do provide
probably a
some.
debate for a
And
different time,
you gotta start somewhere.
but.
My two cousins would have went and applied to the 597, gave their application, oh, you have no welding experience at all, or not gotten Jerry's recommendation to it, they wouldn't be welding right now. Along with my other two friends.
Here's what I'm saying, there needs to be a conversation with those unions and the skill center. What can we do? How can you help us with this?
Yeah. I mean, there's
I
a
went
lot
to
of
JW
possibilities.
Hicks and I asked them if I could take some students over there so they can see what you guys are doing and with welding and stuff. And they're more than glad because they get to pick the cream of the crop. This guy's a better welder than this guy, so I want this guy when you graduate.
We got another meeting to go. We're totally on board with you. Thank you all for coming, seriously.
Thanks for
We're really,
listening.
really happy about the program. I mean, this, and this might even spawn some other people that, organizations, people that want to get involved too. So again, I think this will carry on. And Jared, thank you always we know that you make a lot of self-sacrifice too for that program. So, thank you for that. I'm gonna ask for a motion to adjourn if somebody would like to.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion from Don. Is there a second? And a second from Kay. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
I'll pass the meeting over to the commissioners. Do you want the gavel?
No,
By the way, I do nothing to supervise adult welding.
And I promise you I won't go up there.
Good for you, Jerry.
I would really like to sit down and talk to you. Let's do that. Yeah.
Hey, take care.
But I know where the beach is. I mean, I know where the beach
That's the fact. I'm sorry. That was the other thing we asked about. That's the other thing, the average income. Through the chart of the economic development. Sorry, no, it doesn't change. It's very substandard. So that's the I forgot about
And then you can, and then I talked to the.
Another phone pause. They were in Roseville. They were.
To see what's possible, but I don't know how to get
Well, I appreciate you telling me that, but I'm not a
Tommy,
good
the only-
But it came down here and had people smelling salt and invading the protection on the.
We do.
I had
Thank
no
you.
sympathy for
Thank
what
you.
Yeah.
I've been in there multiple times for fires.
They need to be able to do this program now. They can't, if money's not available to allow it.
Unfortunately, that deal was.
Get all that property in the park.
Okay, so the yellow is owned by DNR.
It was a
And then
bad deal because
see how
most of
it's
Tommy's employees.
Surrounded inside of there by the state road because it owns the state,
were all-
how it went.
Guys, thanks a lot for coming out. We're glad you're
And,
here.
I really like
I don't know.
Yeah, I'd be happy.
They wanted us to write our name down.
Talk to the attorney.
I'll tell you what.
See if he thinks he can get that done.
Yeah, about like
Okay.
when there's.
Just take one of those agendas right there and we'll give that to Rachel.
We
You have something to write with?
We might, yes, we might be involved in that process, but we,
Yeah.
we need to talk to the attorney. First, because I know that this will never happen.
I just don't feel that it's fair.
And they don't, they are not gonna set the funds.
See, what I mean is anything that's got from
I can't, I don't disagree
only
with
spend
you
what
in
you
that.
take in. We run the county like a tax office. That's right. Anything that has a financial component. needs to be run like this.
Rod?
Yeah, but where would that money go? Let's say if Skill didn't get any of the
That's gonna be who
Well,
I
that's what
want
we're
to
trying
go
to
with.
decide. That's why these consultants are coming in.
But even if we like,
That's who I want to go with. So you're,
yeah,
you're
let's say
happy.
like you split it in half, you can take 8,000 in between everything with the economic development.
Split it. Not a way.
Well, I guess I was where I put it. That's what I see. I see you guys like. Not everything.
Okay, I mean, I've heard enough about it, to be honest with you. Like, you know, I've been lobbying endlessly on this, and I'm just one vote on the board. And I
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but I've been lobbying.
Okay, so I went in.
Hey, that's not us, just, you know.
We got a lot of support for it, but nobody supports it. Have we adjourned yet? So I don't know.
I thought we did. Oh.
Yeah, I want to say that. Has supported that. Yeah, no.
No.
Nice.
So, you know, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, your, all new hardware is here.
And they just get it done, though. This is what I have to, you know, there's no shade over there, but it's already excess. Already got.
Okay, I'm gonna remind you, 1 o'clock tomorrow.
Us two, okay.
I don't know if she's coming, Don.
She was planning on
The DNR can't do it, they own this part. The DNR could do it, you put it here, but
Is it
you
up
have to
north?
have this application. They
Yes,
don't
it
have
is,
to-
Brad.
They didn't want to do it up.
I know this just because they've already been meeting with the department.
That is where I got it.
Yeah, I know.
They've talked to purchase,
Yeah.
The big boys.
yeah, the ones that own the big chunks of ground right
That's
here,
the DNR
Hayes.
said, why don't you take that? They'll get-
I don't know. We may have to.
And I thought that I'm trying to do, I'm trying to teach you to do it.
See, it wasn't.
There's no shade.
Yeah. They never came back to us.
They never came back.
Yeah, yeah, you know, we'll definitely, I mean, I'll pass it along to the board. You need that. Is Constellation starting to?
Oh, I've been talking to them.
Okay, that's the organization. Got these sponsorships.
Yeah, I've been talking to them.
Yeah.
We did a lot of work.
I haven't.
And, we did a lot of public outreach.
You didn't have it about the.
No, that's true, because it wasn't something that we really.
Last minute, and I kind of.
We had another thing.
So that's the plan.
We're already aware of this process. We didn't have any authority.
Okay, well, that's what I'm.
You know, it's fine.
Right. Well, I got a number.
I don't mean to stress you out.
I've got a case number where they're looking into.
Okay.
But
That's great.
I-
Send me that. Send me the case of what? You know, this one, sorry, have you ever dealt with it? It takes like
You had
20
a
years.
board member that was. So he was the first person.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. His credit.
Ritzler, it's probably Rick.
Yeah.
He doesn't work for Indoc.
Not anymore, because on his resume.
All right.
I thought he was here.
I worked for Indoc about 40 years ago.
Well, I don't know how long, I don't know. I'm just saying it.
No, I'm sorry. No, I'm just saying that this thing has been changing so much. You know, I've become a little, you know, I mean, it really isn't, you know, I didn't have the authority to decide that. So we had a long
And there wasn't
time.
that, how did you get this?
Yeah, you know, everybody already looked at this one. I mean, the question is, how do you get authority to use that property? It's not like,
DNR would probably.
yeah, it's hard to say. I'm trying to decide.
No, I've already talked to them. They thought it was a good idea,
Well,
but they
Bob
thought-
Lloyd has already been in contact with them on that, so we're aware. You're aware, but I don't know.
But they just told me.
Oh, no, that's, yeah, yeah.
Actually, I would love more of that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't- It's one of those things that-
All right, we're gonna go ahead and continue with our meeting. We started, the health department's up now, next.
You're welcome to come closer.
He's fine there. So we are going to follow suit with 14 Marshall counties in issuing a mask order. Just to try and help slow the spread. Everybody read it? As far as exemptions or any of that thing that's been included in here, thanks to Marty.
I did read it. It is look pretty similar to the one that the other counties have issued.
So we get more people wearing masks, then we can slow the spread. That's what we're going for. Businesses try to simplify it because other counties are making them actually print off the entire order and showing that at each public entrance, what have you.
I don't agree that we should mandate wearing a mask. I've got over 75% of the public probably that I've talked to that don't agree with that. And I have to agree with them. I mean, it looks like you can do it one way or another without the commissioner's approval.
It's a health order.
I do disagree with it.
Any suggestions on how we get more people to wear masks then?
All you can do is ask. That's all you.
Without enforcement, that's what we're doing for the most part.
Yep, enforcement, I doubt that that's ever gonna happen, enforcement.
We're doing what we can.
Well, I do agree with the order. And I am glad that the health department is taking a firm stand on it. And I think that there isn't any penalty. I mean, we're not going to arrest them, put them in jail. We're not going to fine them. It is an incredibly strong reminder that they should be wearing them. And I see all kinds of misinformation on Facebook. And recently there was something on there about the H1N1 was way worse than this. Well, no, because there were 60,000 deaths. Well, we've already had 356,000 or something like that worldwide. It's a far more virulent virus, and it kills more people than the H1N1 or anything else. I don't want to get it, and it's interesting as well. I have to pull my mask down a little bit so people can hear me. I think everybody knows that we had an employee that tested positive here in the annex. They had one at Pulaski County as well. It's going to happen. And interestingly, some of the people that are the most vocal against masks suddenly wanted to protect everything. I have an elderly father at home. I can't be bringing it back to him. I got to close my office. I need to, you know, that if they would just wear the masks and follow the CDC guidelines, we wouldn't be in this boat. And I think that there's enough exceptions to the face mask covering. And let me read those off for the record, and so the press can hear them. It's any child age 2 or less, because kids can suffocate, obviously. Any individual who has a physical disability that prevents easily wearing or removing a face covering. Any individual who's deaf and needs to remove the face covering to use facial and mouth movements as part of their communication. Any individual has been advised by a medical professional that wearing a face mask may pose a risk to the person wearing the face covering for health-related reasons. That would include your chronic lungers that have a great deal of difficulty breathing with the mask on, I would assume. Would that be correct, Dr. Brown? Any individual who has trouble breathing or is unconscious, incapacitated, or otherwise unable to remove the face mask covering without assistance. Any individual who is directed to remove a face covering by a law enforcement officer. Any employee engaged in work-related activity where a face covering would present or exacerbate a hazard as recognized by the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. Any employee in a manufacturing or other work environment where management has determined that high temperatures or concurrent use of other protective gear make mask wearing impractical, unsafe, and where virus transmission is being prevented by social distancing. Any individual whose religious beliefs prevent them from wearing a face covering. Any restaurant or bar customer while they're dining, and any individual who's not in an open area to the public, and 2, can not maintain at least 6 feet from other individuals not residing in his or her household. I mean, that gives a pretty extensive exclusions to the public health order. And I think that as a nurse, I believe the science. I don't want my husband to get it. I would appreciate courtesy from other people that they wear their face mask. I am in the high risk category. I'm 65 years old. While I'm not unhealthy, I could be compromised, and I'm raising my grandkids. I don't want to die. And I do think that a lot of people say, oh, just old people, so what, they'll just die off, what the heck. Oh, kids don't get it very much. Some of these kids are dying in that. So I say, they need to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. And I appreciate you doing this, Dr. Brown, which alleviates us from having to do it.
When I'm out there delivering food, wouldn't it be nice if I know for sure that, I don't care if it says that you're supposed to set the food 6 feet out. A lot of these old people can't even carry their food. We end up helping them take it in the house. It'd be nice if I knew for sure. And most of them people, I really doubt it if they've got it, if they're not quarantined or anything. But how about some of these younger ones and stuff? Wouldn't it be nice? Then I would leave it for sure 6 feet away, knock on the door and get away.
What do you ask?
I deliver this every two days a week.
Okay, but what are you asking? You
I
want
wanna
to know who's
why
got
don't
it?
I know?
Why don't you know who's got it?
Yes.
Why don't you know who's got chlamydia? It's their
Okay.
own private health
Okay,
information.
why am I
But I mean,
why am I
seriously,
delivering food then?
I don't know, why are you?
Because I
You
care
want
about
to,
this
because you want to,
county.
and you want to take care of these
Because
people.
I care
That's what I'm
about
doing
that.
too.
But I
as far as
don't
their
want to put
private-
myself in
right.
danger.
But as far as their private health information,
Yeah, well, it's kind of bullshit.
you want me to tattoo it on their forehead?
No,
Well, then what do you want me to do with it, Brian?
I don't want myself.
I don't want you to get
walking
sick either.
into
That's why I want you to
somewhere.
wear a mask. I want you to keep 6 foot away from
See,
people. I
the
want you to
mask
wash your hands
protects
before you
them
touch
from
your
me,
face.
not me from them.
Both. It does both.
Not as much as it does.
It does. It eliminates 2 more spots where I can spit in your mouth and give it to you.
Well, I think Brian is just venting some of his
And I understand.
frustrations.
I
Kinda
hear
like
the
the guy
frustration all
that-
the time. I do. I
I'm
hear it
not
all the
gonna get
time.
delivered, and I'm still gonna do it.
Good. Keep yourself safe.
I try.
That's all we're trying to do with anybody. Nobody's going to a
You're
camp,
pretty
nobody's going to
close.
jail.
You're pretty close.
I don't think so. I don't think we're anywhere near it. Anyway,
Brandon, did you have something?
Yeah, I just have a question, and I'm guessing this is for Frank and Dr. Brown.
okay.
When does this go into effect? Tomorrow? Today?
Wednesday morning.
Wednesday morning?
12:01.
And do you have any idea when you're going to lift the
When the numbers start leveling out.
leveling out, not going up?
I mean,
Okay.
that's it. I mean, that's the biggest thing. It's this, or it's going back to the whole stay-at-home orders. This is like an alternative. I'm not saying this is gonna beat it, this is gonna fix it, this is gonna stop it.
But if it
But
slows
right,
it
but
down,
right now, this is all we can do, is try and slow it down as much as we can. And the
So-
more people we can get wear masks,
Social distancing and hand washing are still gonna remain critical. Right. I think, 30, several counties surrounding us have already done this.
Yep.
30 states in the United States have already done this. I think we're seeing a significant rise in the number of cases throughout this country and locally as well. And I think we need to see a significant improvement in the amount of cases in the county before we would rescind this order.
And it's kind of addressed in the last section of the order. You know, that it kind of depends on the data, it's data driven. And here's one of my biggest fears. I know that I hear through the grapevine and on Facebook, the teachers are starting to panic terribly because they're about to go to the schools and there's no mask being required for the kids to wear or them or whatever. And I believe it will go rampant through the schools.
But
I-
now
on
there
top
are.
of that, the teachers are being considered essential personnel. So if they get it,
I've got one.
yeah, I mean, if they get it, keep working till you start developing symptoms, then we'll send you home. I mean,
But with this, the kids in the school have to wear them,
Yes,
unless they're under 2, which they won't be in the school anyway.
nope.
yes. Or something prevents them. I mean,
Right.
there are physically handicapped children that attend school who, would be entitled to the same exceptions that everybody else is.
County employees.
Can I ask specifically where people are required to wear
So
masks?
unless something gets passed, that county employees have to wear them in their office.
Virtual. I don't believe kids. don't-
Here's the, do you want to read it,
The
Dr.
order
Rose?
specifically states, every individual must properly wear a face covering over their nose and mouth when they are in any indoor area open to the public, including public transportation, schools, churches, and indoor places of work or business. Any outdoor public area where a distance of 6 feet from individuals outside of their household cannot be maintained or is not consistently being maintained, or any private indoor or outdoor area where a distance of 6 feet from individuals visiting from outside of their household cannot be maintained or is not consistently being maintained. An adult should supervise use of face covering by children aged 3 to 12 to avoid misuse. A properly worn face covering is one that fully covers the individual's mouth and nose, fits snugly against the side of the face with no gaps, is secured to prevent slipping, and allows for breathing with no restriction.
How does this affect county employees?
They're bound by the obligation of this and are required to wear a mask to work.
And that's also the public that comes into the building too?
Yes. So I believe Frank has some posters that.
Signage to put up as opposed to
Signage.
printing off the entire order and putting it up on the front of the public entrances for any of the businesses or
And
anything
this
like
is
that.
while they're in their offices?
Well,
everywhere?
if it's any indoor area open to the public, where a distance of 6 feet from a private indoor or outdoor area, where a distance of 6 feet from individuals visiting from outside of their household cannot be maintained or is not consistently being maintained. So in your
My
office,
No.
are your desks at least 6 feet apart?
But not in
that would
every
be-
office, I mean.
Well, not in every office.
Nope.
And if the public comes in, they're gonna have to put a face mask on to tend to the people in the
If
public.
it's one office, it's gotta be all of them. Because otherwise, well, why don't they have to wear them when we do?
No.
That's true.
That'll be it. They can't maintain 6 foot of distance, then they gotta wear a mask. Supposed to wear a mask inside when you're around other people.
We need to be part of the solution, not part of the problem.
This is our biggest month yet. We've got 65 cases so far this month, and it's only the 20th.
How many?
65 new cases this month.
It's going up exponentially. And that
June, we
is,
had 36 cases. May, we had 22 cases. April, we had 16. March, we had our first case.
WKPI reported that we have 138 active cases in Stark County.
And 66 of those are still,
66 are active,
66 are still ill.
are still.
I don't get into the active.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? But as far as still ill, haven't recovered completely, have not been symptom free and removed from the investigation list, follow-up list, anything like that. At least 66 of them are still symptomatic, fighting the COVID. I could have had, I was better at math. I would have had per capita numbers and everything else for you, like what it seems like Marshall County done for their commissioners this morning, but that one's the one that sticks out to me. 65 cases so far in July, and it's the 20th. So we're not even 2/3 of the way through the month yet.
and I think a lot of those are coming out of the 4th of July weekend that we're seeing now, so.
Yep.
Well, there's only about 9 of them that are coming out of the testing that I had going on at the high school last week. There's only like 9 of them. The rest of them are between churches, 4th of July weekend, and just the random ones, the 1, 2, 3 here or there, that kind of thing. The husband giving it to the wife giving it to the husband. But I've had a couple of little spurts with a couple churches and
And at least 40% of the cases are coming from people who don't know or don't know they're carrying. Yes. So unlike the flu, where usually the transmission is after you become symptomatic, with COVID, you can transmit this and never
48
know,
hours before your symptoms start.
and never know you were sick.
Brenda?
How many people did come to the free testing that you offered?
77 last Tuesday, 83 on Wednesday. I didn't get numbers for,
Well, that's not very many. We have 23,000 people in this town.
no, and
They're just not coming.
they weren't upset with Tuesday and Wednesday's numbers. I didn't get numbers for Thursday and Friday. And then Saturday, they had to shorten it up because Knox High School had its graduation, so waiting to see if that's gonna give us a bump in numbers.
So is
They
this
follow
every
state
day?
guidance.
You're gonna continue doing testing every day?
Well, what I have out there now, they're gonna start testing again tomorrow, and they'll be here this week through Saturday.
Okay.
So that's it, state came down for 2 weeks for us.
I'll send out an email to all my contacts for the chamber. where you
And I'm
see it.
working on a grant right now in regards to having testing regularly based in the county. So working with state on that to try and keep it here. That's what they're saying, was within 72 hours, you should have the results, so.
Department heads have questions about this, you're gonna have them contact the board?
Yeah, they can contact the board. I mean, probably not Brian.
Well, expanding on Brian's with the meal delivery, I mean, the people who fill out the forms, you have to choose senior citizen, loss of income, or quarantine. I mean, can we at least give our drivers the address of the quarantine individuals?
No identifying information.
Well, we can ask the people if the driver can't drop it off and they
If
want
you're
them to
asking
come
them.
in, they have to wear a mask to let the driver in. I feel sorry for Brian because Brian has done such a good job with this and he's so committed to it. And he goes in there because they're all elderly and they can't, so he'll go into their house and take them their food and set it on the counter, but they could be sick
got it.
too,
I
so
know.
ask them to deliver a mask with your food orders, maybe Brian, and so they can wear it next
I
time.
had Kenny Post asking me today in regards to what should I do? I've got somebody, I don't know if they've got it or not, or anything like that, and I told him, wear a mask, keep 6 foot from them before you go in, ask them to put on a mask. He's talking about putting on a Tyvek suit and everything else, and it's like, there's no point in having to clean a piece of equipment. Wash your hands before you touch your face, put a mask on, keep 6 foot distance between you, go check what you gotta check out in their house. You should be fine. I'm not trying to overcomplicate nothing. I'm just trying, if I can get some more people paying attention wearing a mask, washing their hands, staying home when they're sick.
I disagree
No, I
with the man. I'm
understand.
saying that
Yeah, I know what you're
people
saying.
in the county will be pissed that
They sure will.
Well, I
I know.
understand.
doing it.
They're
That's
gonna be
what
a
I'm
lot
saying.
more upset if they have to go back.
Yes,
That's what I'm saying.
it's a lot
And
better.
that's what
than
we're
shutting
trying
it
to slow it down enough where we don't have this stay-at-home order. We don't have another stay-at-home
Brian,
order.
I don't know if it helps, but it really is the county health officer's call, you know?
Good.
I mean, it's totally his call. He's consulting with you, but it's
I
totally
really-
his call.
I really respect Dr. Brown very much. I will say that.
I mean, it's not for you guys as politicians to say, the county, we didn't approve this. We didn't have a vote on this. The county health department decided they needed to do this. And they came and let us know they were doing this so that you could have your questions answered and be aware of the situation. But this isn't something the council, the commission, were asking for a vote. We're just letting you know that in the best interest of the citizens of Stark County, we feel this action is necessary at this time.
We're right in a pocket. We're right in a pocket with LaPorte, Porter County, Marshall County, St. Joe County. They're all spiking. They're all going up. Marshall County is claiming that they've got the highest per capita rate in the state at the moment. So,
And if 40% of the people that have this don't even know they have this when they are capable of spreading it, then why not wear the mask? I mean, this doesn't protect just other people from me. It protects me from other people as well. Because in order to get enough of the virus transmitted to you, if we can block some of that in both directions with this mask, we're going to be better off. And if you do get a case of COVID, if you get a less serious case, your chances of surviving are much better.
or if you're already wearing the mask and you don't know you have it, you don't know you have the symptoms, you're not spreading it. You're going to spread it within your household, because I'm not expecting people to walk around in their house wearing a mask all day. I have absolutely no intention of
Exactly.
trying to create that habit.
Exactly.
But if they've got it, and when they go out and they've got a mask on at the grocery store, it's that much less of it's getting spread. I'm not trying to hurt anybody.
As a political person, I certainly understand the constituency and their feelings on it. But as a nurse, I understand the science and understand.
But
People
that's
reading the
65 we've
data.
had this month. 4 of them have been in the hospital. 1 of them has passed away.
I'm not ready to kick the bucket yet, I don't think, so.
Numbers are just going up, and that's why we're trying to do this. So appreciate all the support you can give us. Any questions, we're gonna be fielding phone calls like mad over it. I know.
Yes, I'm
And
sure
I'm
you
fully
will.
expecting it.
I'm sure. you will.
And all I can do is try and educate people as to why we're doing it. I'm not trying to take away anybody's liberty. I'm just trying to keep people from getting sick.
And I think it was a good job of researching our needs here and identifying, what the ordinance needed to say and what it, I think you did a good job. And as a nurse, a grandmother, a mother, a wife, I am glad that you are working to protect me, my family, and other families in Stark County.
Businesses that are going to do it, this is the signage that'll be available on the health department's website, as opposed to printing off this whole order and taping it up.
I
Trying to keep
think
it as
probably if
simple
you
as
give it
possible.
to the people from the media, probably Jackie, you'll probably get it on tomorrow, right? And then Jackie can.
I can get it in this week.
Okay. And if we put it on the website, have them put it right up at the top of the website for the county, and maybe you could, the chamber
give
could
it to
also
Mitchell
give,
tomorrow and
could,
Get everything set and ready to go. That way it's all ready for Wednesday morning when it goes into effect. So I'll get the emails to the media and everything like that. And so just trying to get through this before.
and I appreciate you guys coming to the commissioners to inform us of your intentions before you actually did it. I don't think that happened in Marshall County. So I think Byron issued it and then saw the commissioners today. So
Well, we appreciate the opportunity to be here. But I do think, it is the right thing to do at this time to try to protect the health of the citizens of our county. And I'm sorry if it places anybody in a difficult position.
but I think we have to take this very seriously and do the right thing. And I would stress that hand washing and social distancing remain equally as important as wearing the mask. And hopefully, within a few weeks' time, you can see a significant decline in our cases in this county and get kids back to school as safely as possible and continue to be healthy. Again, we appreciate the opportunity to be here. There's no other questions right now. I'm running a little late tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Brown.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frank.
Thanks, Frank.
Thank you.
Jim, you wanna come up with those three quotes, we'll get you out of the way then.
I'm gonna run away.
Over at the annex too, we have a tree out front that's leaning, and it seems like the last couple of storms we've had, it's getting worse. Concerned about it, landed on our elevator. So I had got 3 quotes. One was from the CNT, from Monroe Tim's, is his name, and his quote is, Charlie's got that, 1,200. I also have 2 more here. This one's from C&J Affordable Tree Service, which is Prentice Lennox. And his quote was for 800. This one's just a minute.
Yeah,
This was for 800. Well, it's not, I'm not gonna have it snap the road because it's got fiber optic wire. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then the last one I have is from TD's Tree Service, which is Travis.
Right.
This came in at 875.
If you guys do this, no, because they usually charge you 1 check. Grind the stuff.
Oh, yeah. He doesn't have insurance, so that's free.
Yeah, see, that's all.
Nor the tree removed, because they removed the tree.
Well, when they talk to us, we told them they have to come, the tree has to go.
So all of them are gonna-
Stuff, it's still be.
They're all gonna clean everything up except for the stuff. All that garbage.
Yep.
This is still the least amount here.
Yeah.
It is. So there a motion to approve C&J?
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
All those in favor? Aye.
And C&J, they say here later on, we want to stop, but I'm so sure I don't want.
Right. You want these back in?
I've got copies of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks a lot.
C&J. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Next up will be, driveway permit ordinance.
This is something that we did during the planning commission, that we've been discussing before the COVID started.
We actually, we actually started in November of last year, gathering information. So appreciate you guys hearing this tonight. Thank you. This ordinance, we've all talked about it from time to time and what this is going to protect us. We had a situation that all of us can relate to at Bass Lake for a couple of years that I know that Brian, you've been out there, Kathy, you and I were out there. And this will protect us from people flooding people out, to make sure that driveways are safe for the county, and to make sure that we have control to stop this before it happens. With the one driveway that we had the particular problem with in a battle, we got that situation solved, but I bartered with those people for almost a year before we finally got that done. This would give us the teeth to make sure that these are installed properly, whether they need culverts or they don't need culverts. And not to mention the transition where the driveways meet the road. It's a safety procedure. Rick and I have went over this. I briefly talked to Martin in the back. I don't know if you guys have read through it. The only thing that we did in here, down in section 6.1, where it says there will be no cost for the driveway permit. It's been recommended that maybe there might be a small cost for the permit of $25. But anyway, other than that, I don't know how the commissioners feel about it. I've talked to Mr. Stevenson about it numerous of times. I just think it's something vital for our county to have to help us control these issues, especially in our residential settings. One of the worst places we have this problem is Bass Lake. So it's something I feel that we really need. We put a lot of time into this. I realize it's only 2 pages, but we wanted to cut it short where it was understandable and make it available to the public upon approval. We did have our public hearing, which it was advertised and so forth, and we had no folks show up for our public hearing at the Planning Commission, and we had no objections of it.
Well, I think we need something because we have run into some troubles, especially over at Bass Lake.
Yeah.
It seems like that's been the biggest problem. The only thing I would like to see Rick have some sort of involvement on here as well, especially if the driveways are coming onto the county roads.
Right.
And he's referenced here where he's as having received complaints, but I kind of like to have maybe 2 weeks to see, if he's got any thoughts or suggestions on it too. And because it seems pretty straightforward to me, but I just would like to take that extra little bit of.
And I met with him and Bob, and we actually worked on this quite a bit together and came up with some information. This is something that Rick said, hey, well, you're on the Planning Commission. This is something we really, really need. So he's been a part of this. If it needs, we need to add some language where it meets his approval for the road transition and so forth, where that meets we can take it back and do an adjustment.
So would you mind if we took took some to our next meeting to take a look at that and then approve it at our next meeting, pending how that might look, that language or whatever.
Yeah, no, Brian, I have no issue.
Yeah, I don't think, I think what you're saying is it's gotta be nice to, like if we're on a hill or something, you kind of want it to, maybe record say, so may need to go down further.
So one thing, and I didn't bring it today and I should have, but I started for this because, there's gotta be a procedure, an SOP, not a standard operating procedure. So one thing that's gonna be done, I'm gonna get that created for this. I'll try to bring it back to that meeting to how this is handled from the time they come in and apply for the permit to where it gets emailed, and we'll add Rick to that email because the highway department should know about it too. But I was gonna make that a part of my standard operating procedure for this. I just didn't get to it yet. So, but I don't have a problem if you guys go over it. And any recommendations, please email them to me and appreciate it.
I appreciate that. So.
Pretty much, I know where Bill's coming from. We were worried about the flooding here.
Right.
You put a driveway across here, there's a ditch. You can't do that and plug it up.
No, I agree. It's been a problem. It's been a problem for a long time. So
it's really sad.
If we take 2 extra weeks just to kind of take a look, it's not going to be a bad thing.
It's not going to hurt anything. And, I want to make sure that when you guys approve this, that we're ready. So if we need to make a change, I want us all to be on board. I don't want to have to wait.
I think we all want something.
Yeah. And I know Rick's been supportive. I think probably where he's going to have more interest is when we do the standard operating procedures of how this is going to be handled. Because I do think that highway superintendent should be involved in the transition between the road in the driveway when they meet, because that's a lot of the safety issues come into.
Right.
You gonna get older, Eric, or you?
You can get hold of it.
Yeah, and I'll email it to you. It's no big deal, because like I said, I already went out to the highway department. We already had a meeting on this, him and Bob and myself. So I'll make sure to talk to him some more too, and see what he wants far as part of his notification of standard operating procedure that it would be.
Okay, I think that'd be good for insurance purposes too, if there was some sort of a lawsuit or something. Then if we had a chain there like that, that would be good too.
I guess it brought up the cost of the permit, maybe adding that.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking, and maybe it shouldn't be for free. I've had comments both ways. Some people said we should do it as part of the building permit, and other people said, well, we should charge a service for that because there is an inspection. So,
I don't disagree with that.
$25 or something,
Yeah.
something simple.
Yeah, so I mean, we can do a correction to section 6 here on that and so forth, and an amendment, so.
I think it would be good to include a citation to the statute that gives you authority to do it. I don't doubt that you have the authority, it's pretty obvious, but I think it's good to have a citation to that. And I think, getting to Rick's involvement, I think it should be in the ordinance too, because it's like, I think Commissioner Nora mentioned on insurance, sight lines and some of the things may not be obvious. For example, an engineer probably wouldn't want to have the driveway coming in at an angle. You don't think about that right away, but, or the location, proximity to an intersection, or the sight lines for the intersection, all those things, they can include that, because I think there could be, once you start issuing the permit, and you're gonna have to show due caution, due care with the driving public in doing so. So it really should have a, engineering safety review as part of it. And I know your primary concern is probably the biggest problem. People probably, more often their culvert's not big enough, right? That's probably the common fault.
And our biggest problem is where they should install a culvert and don't.
No, they don't do it at all, right?
They don't do it at all, and then
Yeah.
we get a neighbor that's flooded out where the water can't move. It's been a big problem. Commissioner Binkley and I started, Kathy and I took over when Don left, and Brian, and it's just been a battle for us to get this done at the lake
That's
area.
probably tricky to get, without the permit, you don't have really,
You don't have
any good traction for actually making them do what they're supposed to do, yeah.
No, we don't have no method to keep it in line or to have them do this without this permit. And it's not that we're being sticklers and want a permit for everything, but if the public realized how many phone calls that we get in a week's time, or complaints that the commissioners get, because the neighbor put in a driveway and blocked the water that used to flow down a little tiny surface ditch, it gets aggravating after a while.
I can't recall, was there a change of use also? I mean, like, for example, if you went from a place that was, like a field, that served a field, and all of a sudden you were like doing an apartment building.
Yeah.
Or does it include that, a permit for that too?
What it included in here was all types.
I was saying, because your grandfather didn't, if you got an existing
Right.
one, right?
But anything above that in here would be new, considered new, so.
One of the questions, maybe it says the answer to this, but like if it's just an agricultural field where, is there like rarely used and it's just like a tractor drives off to there, is that counting as a driveway? How do we know when it's not a driveway? Does it have to be serving a residence?
No, we would consider that a driveway because it would be an entrance off of a roadway. And we have the same type of issues with some farmers that decide, hey, we want an entrance here, and they dump a little dirt in there, and then the next thing you know, we got road water standing up in the road that couldn't drain down through there as well.
So it's like changing the landscape that makes it.
Right,
that triggers it.
Yeah, that triggers
That makes
it.
sense.
And anything that doesn't call for a culvert or anything will be approved. Part of the application, as you guys seen on the last page, we got for them, and we'll get, this was just a sample that we made up. It specifies the use type, culvert size, like I said, stone driveway, contractor involved. It also considers it also has a signature from the planning commission director and the surveyor. And we can even add a signature for the highway superintendent on there. That way, he can, do the safety portions of it in there, but,
Obviously, they're concerned about the quality, the pavement, protecting. the
right,
pavement,
we want to
because
make
some
sure
cases
that,
The driveway is
yeah.
gonna trash the
yeah,
pavement.
especially on some of those farm entrances, we want to make sure we protect. Because that's a lot of places where they start coming in and out and roadways get pushed up and then they got to send the guys out to patch and, it creates a lot of havoc for the county and a lot of extra cost. And I think, changing a little bit of wording in here would be okay and getting everybody a little bit more involved, but it would give us a leg to stand on for the first time ever here, trying to get some of these issues taken care of versus us always having to go after the fact and battle this out. One thing in here that I did want to talk about that I would like the commissioner's approval on one part of this. We made a change at 7.2 on the signature page back here. It would be the fines if they did not come in and get a permit, which we kept relatively cheap in my opinion. Would be no less than 50, no greater than 100. And the part that I really would like your guys' approval on is 7.3. 100% of the fines collected will go into the unsafe building fund because we really need revenue coming into that fund to continue help cleaning up the county. I do realize that we probably still have to go to the council and get approval for that as well. But I would like your guys' blessing on that so I could get on the next agenda for the council for that part.
I'm not sure that can be done.
Yeah, we'll have to check with the authority on that. I'm
Yeah.
not sure there's probably, if only it's so simple. But
Yeah.
There's usually statutory requirements and all that stuff. I'll have to review whether.
That'd be my only concern. I mean, I have no, because I agree with you. You need to have some money in there. Because we've got too many things that need to be addressed and no money to address them with. So I agree with that 100%, but.
I did some little bit of research on that, Marty, and I found a couple different things, but I'm gonna let you.
No, you go ahead and send it to me.
I'm gonna let you interpret those.
Yeah, send it to
Because
me.
one part of it, it's just like any other law sometimes, one part of it shows you a nice example of how it'll work, and there's two other lines below it that contradict the whole thing,
Right.
so.
No, stuff is so context.
Right, so
It's challenging.
I'll let you
Yeah.
give me the opinion
And
on
just,
that.
if you would send that to me
Yeah.
so I can review where you were at on that.
Yeah, but this is our
If
first.
it can be done, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But-
Sometimes they require that fines be paid in the general fund, though. That's a common, you see that a lot too, Rachel, right? And it's typical, so, I don't know why, but we follow the rules, we don't question them.
Okay, that's basically all I got on it right now, unless you guys got any other questions.
No, I really, again, it's something that we've needed for a long time, so I appreciate you guys in the planning commission working on that.
Yeah, it's something definitely needed, so. Thank you guys, I appreciate
you.
it. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Go ahead and, is there a motion to approve the payroll claims in the amount of $277,226.21.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Is there a motion to approve the vendor claims in the amount of $244,032.23?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. And, we got a community corrections, board appointment.
Well, I think they sent us the email that they want Josh Pitts, who took Jessica Zenis's position, I guess, which would be appropriate. So I make a motion that we appoint Josh Pitts to that office for the remaining unexpired term of Jessica Vance.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Then, the Stark County Economic Development Foundation performance review.
We got 2 quotes to do a review. One came from Structure Point out of Indianapolis, I believe. And another one from Thomas P. Miller and Associates. And I did share them both with Larry and asked his opinion. And his opinion was that he thought this Thomas P. Miller would be the best. And frankly, what I looked at, I thought it was superior to Structure Point. That was my opinion. I mean, I liked the fact I thought their scope, their approach, their personnel seemed to have be better suited for what we wanted, that they had experience in a rural setting. And specifically, their approach, I thought, would be better suited to us. They're going to do a review of the existing conditions, an economic snapshot, stakeholder interviews, and a SWOT analysis, which I thought was very important to talk to the people who have been involved in it and get their thoughts and feelings on the efficacy of the Economic Development Foundation. And then they're going to have a recommendation presentation to the Board of Commissioners, which would be a public meeting. And I think it's been overdue. The cost is $10,000. Our contract with them requires that they pay half up, and I can't remember if it's 47.5.
It's a little less than.
It's a little
10.
less than 5,000, so our share would be a little more than 5. But I like this one the best.
Well, you heard what Larry said.
What?
Whatever you decide, what I'm with.
Well, then I'll make the motion.
I just want to interject. I was like, I spoke to both of them quite a bit, and I thought they were both good. I would be really happy with either one of them. I found 4 organizations I was able to approach, and they were the 2 that gave plans, and I thought they were both good plans, and I thought either one would be effective. American Structure Point's more of your big corporate thing, and the other firm is more of your boutique consultant. But I think either one would be an excellent choice.
Well, I like their references to the rural economic development, where this one did not recognize the fact that we
American Structure Point is certainly your more big, giant building with hundreds of people working in it.
Well, and I think sometimes that small communities have certain special problems and special issues to be addressed. So that's why one of the reasons I like that so much. So, but I appreciate your looking at it. I think the sooner the better. So I'll make a motion that we approve the proposal by Thomas Miller and Associates to start as soon as possible. And I would suggest that we pay the entire 10,000 out of probably cum cap, and then we can, because I don't think we have any economic development funds. Maybe we do. Well, we might have some.
You didn't pay the U.S. Coalition.
Use those funds, just transfer them over, and then we can bill economic development for their portion.
All those in favor? Aye.
You want me to inform them that they can
Yes.
have it? I'll
Yes.
do that tomorrow.
Yes, and we want to start immediately.
I will, with your permission, I'll forward them the materials. I think the Constellation Stark materials will be really helpful to them, because one thing I would like to do is not have them spend too much time, doing what we've already done. And I think they'll find that we've actually done a lot of those things. I'd like to see them get in their analysis more and not have to spend a lot of time looking at the census information.
So that timeline that you mentioned earlier, is that for this company?
Yes.
So August 10th, October.
Yes.
They were
they're-
similar timelines. too.
Yes, they were similar timelines, but this one in particular, that was their timeline that they gave. So the phase 4, which is the last phase, is through the end of September. So I'm thinking probably our first meeting in October, or possibly the second one, we'd get their report back, but the sooner the better.
Anything else, Kathy? Rachel, again, Marty? Does anyone else have anything?
Ready?
Motion adjourned.
So
Okay, right.
No, no.
I'll look forward to your message, okay? I'll look forward to your message.
No, you already have it, you have that executive committee.
Yes, I'm on the.
I have Jackson, somebody you're on the road.
There is